Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the June 4th, 2026 meeting of the Baltimore City Planning Commission, meeting number 2091. My name is John Laria. I'm the Commission Chair. Seated next to me is our Acting Planning Director and Executive Secretary, Ren Southard. And Mr. Tiso, I'd ask you please to call the roll.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Robin Allen.
Present.
John Bullock.
Present.
Christine Griffin.
Present.
Claudia Jolin.
Present.
Doug McCoach.
Present.
Calvin Young.
President.
Some one day. Eric Stevenson.
Focus, Cal. Focus.
Here. And Chair Laria.
Present. Okay. Commissioners, we have minutes from May 14, 2026. Is there a motion to approve those minutes as provided?
Motion to approve.
It's been moved by the Vice Chair and seconded by somebody.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jolin. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. We'll move on to CIP transfers on the consent agenda. And as is our habit, I say this mostly for folks who might not have been here at prior meetings. Our custom has become to hear from the staff on the transfers that are considered not consistent with the CIP, which I always say is less ominous than it sounds. It's not a bad thing. It just needs a little more explanation because it relates to decisions that are being made to move funds from one account to another that are a little bit beyond their original purpose. So with that, I will ask the staff to walk through those items. And the first, go ahead. I've got it. I'll get it on my screen.
Sure. Good afternoon. Nelson Vasconcelos, Capital Planning Analyst with DOP. So we'll start with the transfers from the May 20th BOE meeting. There are 5 in all. So transfers 1 and 2 relate to the same issue. We've been dealing with these in past meetings where BCRP is correcting award amounts for Program Open Spaces grant. Essentially, the initial allocations are based on estimates, and then they sort of go back and course correct on those. So for the Silver Mansion and Palm House for transfer 1, and then transfer 2 is coming from an unallocated reserve, again, to complete that for the Palm House. Transfer 3, excuse me. So these were for the parking authority. Transfer 3, that's a transfer from an account for upgrades to the garage security camera system, and that's being moved to an account for Penn Station garage capital repairs. Parking authority indicated that the current security camera system is still functioning and providing video footage of incidents when needed. So completing capital repairs at the garage is a higher priority, so the garage can safely remain open and serve the public and continue to generate revenue for the city. Transfer 4 is actually consistent because that is those are accounts for the same purpose. And then transfer 5 is for repairs to the Little Italy garage from an account for the Fleet Needham elevators. And parking authority indicates that the most recent assessment of the elevators indicated that those elevators are functioning at or near the recommended standards and require only minor non-capital repairs at this time, and they'll be reassessed in 5 years. So with more pressing needs for the Little Italy garage, again, to ensure safety and continue generating revenue for the city.
Nelson, do you know, in each of those 2 garage items, there's actually in multiple garage items, there's a reference to assessments conducted by JMT, which I know is an engineering firm. That one says June 24, one says September 24, one says November 23. Is that some sort of an ongoing series of assessments? Do you know? I mean, maybe you don't, but I'm just wondering if you know.
I don't. We can reach out to the parking and find out about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious about, those are all multiple assessments. Are they doing some sort of a cycle? Where are they in the cycle? Just in terms of understanding what the capital needs are for those parking authority facilities?
Sure, I'll find out for you for sure.
Thanks. Okay, and you can go to the next.
Yeah, and then moving on to yesterday's Board of Estimates meeting. Again, for Rec and Parks, transfers 1 through 4 again are correcting program open space allocations, the appropriation amounts, excuse me, for the City Spring and for the Herring Run. And then transfer 5 is closing out an account, a reserve account, excuse me. It was building renovation for a few different centers, and that is being reallocated to that Herring Run Athletic Complex, the sports complex that's going to be developed. Then transfers 6 and 7 are related to an ARPA swap. Again, this is something we've been dealing with in the past. So the project for the Gardenville Rec Center is currently delayed, and those ARPA funds have to be expended by October 31st. So we are transferring the ARPA funds to an account for BCRP Rec Center South Baltimore, which includes the Elijah Cummings Rec Center. And then transfer 7, excuse me, is coming from the general fund account, general capital account of the rec center, of the Elijah Cummings Rec Center, going to that Gardenville Rec Center so that that work can be completed later on. And actually, let me see, transfer 8 is actually consistent with the CIP because that's just going from, it's for a dedicated account for gap financing.
So, and I don't know if the deputy mayor has something to say with it. So the ARPA deadline, did it get moved up?
Yeah,
It used to be
I believe
December.
it was moved up from December 31st to October 31st, if I'm correct.
So I imagine that across the ARPA landscape, we're trying to find ways to make sure that that money is
Exactly.
properly spent. Yeah. Okay. All right. Questions for staff? Hearing none. Oh, yes, please.
Can I, just on that ARPA note, is that something that we should expect to see more of as we're hearing?
Possibly. So we've had a few of these transfers, and yeah, I think there are more forthcoming in the hopefully coming weeks.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the CIP transfers from the May 20th, 26 and June 3rd, 2026 items listed?
So moved.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is approved. Thank you very much. Okay. We're going to move to our regular agenda. Madam?
Item number 4 is the City Schools 2026 Comprehensive Educational Facilities Master Plan, or the CEFMP. This is citywide. And Nelson Vasconcelos, well, thank you. Nelson is going to present. Thank you.
All right. So just for a quick background on the CFMP, it's required by the state annually from city schools to provide that facilities master plan, and it's a tool to. Oh, I'm sorry. I have the one. It's a tool to. I'm sorry. I can do it for you. No, I got it. Thank you. So it's used to evaluate resources and inform decisions on investment and assessing future needs, such as the CIP, portfolio decisions related to potential school closures or reconfiguring, 21st Century Built to Learn funding, now Nancy COP, as well as other investments. If you take a look at this chart here, so this is enrollment by race over time, and I want to point out that that reddish area is for Latino students. For near the previous decade, the Latino student population had grown by about 9% per year, and that was just only about 1% in the past school year, owing to federal immigration enforcement. So that is part of the cause for the overall drop in enrollment at city schools. In the same vein, the yellow section is referring to African American students, and there has been a decline, but that has also stabilized, and there was only about a decrease of only about 1% in Black enrollment last year as well. So the current city schools utilization rate is 87%, which is just above the target of 86%. It is projected to decrease over the next half a decade or so. You see the red dotted line is the projected enrollment. And, sorry about that. I think I might be missing a slide, but for additional context, I did want to point out that although the utilization rate is around the district target, It's uneven by geography. So in our Western Planning District, the utilization rate was only about 75%, which presents a challenge because you can't simply, move students to a nearby school because they're all, the underutilized schools are within one geography. And particularly in the south, northwest and southeast, schools are pretty much at capacity. So it's not easy to just sort of shuffle students around. And about 1,500 seats in that Western district have been surplus in the last decade or so. So to sum up, and I'll call Maureen up in a second for more detail, the CEFMP is consistent with our FY27 to 32 CIP and includes funding for major renovations for Evanston High, Ben Franklin High, Lakeland Elementary, and repurposing of the old Southeast 255 building. And so as a result, we recommend approval of the CEFMP. I can pass it up to Maureen Gershberg now, City Schools.
Can I ask you one quick question? You don't have to put the slide back up. That chart, is that telling us that there are 8,093, I don't know what the other groups would be, white presumably, maybe Pacific Islander, other groups that are not Black and not Latino, that's the population in the school system, is that correct?
Yes, every other race except African American and Latinx.
That ratio is enormous. I mean, it's just surprising to me, I guess, a little bit so the 52. I'm trying to do the math here. What percentage of our student body across the city is Black? 52 over. Trying to get the number right. It's a lot. 75, 80%. 70.
Yes, we are primarily Black district. Absolutely, yes.
I assume we were primarily Black for obvious reasons, just demographics of the city, but that really is even more so than I would have expected. Interesting. Okay. Okay.
I think it does. There is something to be observed that, the city is 65% Black or whatever, but that number is higher in the school, so that is indicative of something.
Yep. Okay. Well, please.
All right. Well, thank you. My name is Maureen Gershberg, and today I'll be presenting the 2026 CEFMP, the Comprehensive Educational Facilities Master Plan. The CEFMP aligns with our board priority 3. And the CEFMP, it is a document we submit every year, as Nelson said, but it's also a resource for data analysis, decisions, planning, and outcomes that we gather and produce throughout the year. And so it's really more of a continuous process that informs district initiatives and decisions. These are the topics we'll be covering today: enrollment changes, current and projected utilization, enrollment patterns, facility conditions and investments, and programmatic alignment. We're going to start high level and then we'll zoom into Baltimore. So enrollment in a public school district determines how many seats are needed, and it's often driven by the number of inhabitants in a city. Immigration, as we're all aware, has been a primary driver of growth the past 5 years nationwide. This last year has seen significant changes across metro areas because of primarily shifting federal priorities. If we zoom into the state, we can see that our growth in Maryland was pretty modest. It was about half what it was last year. In Baltimore, we lost 56 people. So it's, again, very different than what we were seeing in the past year before that. City population and city schools enrollment have pretty much been in alignment the past 10 years. So those changes that we see in the city population, they're often mimicked in our enrollment data. Both started experiencing dramatic drops in 2015, and we saw continuous decreases up through 2024 when both entities saw an uptick. Last year, city schools gained enrollment for the first time in 10 years of over 1,000 students, and we were all very happy about that. This map shows our overall losses and gains between 2016 and 2025. So as you saw on the previous slide, lots of loss, and then finally a uptick. The change that we saw last year, and then even this year's modest losses, are tied to two primary trends: Latino student growth and Black student loss. And we'll go over those in the next slides. So this is that slide Nelson showed. The yellow at the top, as we said, are all other races except Latino and Black. This graph really highlights those two trends I mentioned. Latino student enrollment was gaining 9% each year for the past 9 or so years. This year, it was less than 1%. It pretty much flatlined, again, shifting federal priorities. Concurrently, though, from 2016 to 2023, Black student enrollment was decreasing on average about 1,800 kids a year. So while we were embracing the increases, there was concurrently this hemorrhaging, really, coming out of our neighborhoods. Last year, the loss was only 475 for our Black students, so again, significant change from those past losses of 1,800. This year was 650. So again, while losses are not ideal, those are still dramatically less than what we saw historically of 1,800 plus. That paired with the flat line of the Latino student enrollment gave us that minor loss that we saw this year. All right, so we've covered overall student numbers. We'll now look at birth trends. They help predict future kindergarten enrollment. The big takeaway is that kids have been having less kids for years now. It's a nationwide trend, and we're seeing it in Maryland as well. Here are some neighboring jurisdictions where you can see it. Frederick County was the only one that actually went up. We look at kindergarten capture rate as part of a full range of considerations when we develop our projections. It doesn't matter as much this year, but we still want to mention it. As we said, the birth rates have been dropping dramatically. However, our kindergarten capture rate actually went up this year because our numerator, our kindergarten enrollment, had been increasing because of our strong Latino enrollment. So while the capture rate doesn't tell the story as much as it did in the past, it's still a consideration that we look at when we develop projections. All right, so we're going to take all that information now and on trends and births and pull that to develop our actual projections. The state requires 10-year enrollment projections as part of the CEFMP. In past years, we were looking at an overall loss of about 5,000 students 10 years out. Due to last year's gains and this year's minor losses, we've changed that overall prediction to be an overall loss of about 1,500 students 10 years out. We're hopeful that if we can continue minimizing the decreases and plateauing, that plateau will continue in the out years. Current enrollment and projections allow us to calculate the utilization of a building, which can tell us how efficient we are with our spaces. When we began the 21st Century Buildings program, the district utilization was 78%. As part of the program, we made a commitment to be at or above 86% by SY 1920, which we surpassed with 87%. We are still currently at 87%, and our out-year utilization is projected to drop 2 percentage points to 85%. But given the changing enrollment environment that we found ourselves in, particularly since 2015, we'd like to recognize all the work we've done to keep our utilization as high as it is, despite a net enrollment loss of 8,000 students over the past 10 years. District-wide utilization is important, but so is utilization at the building level, because that's where we actually feel it. This slide and the following one will discuss utilization by two metrics, by type and then by geography. So this shows the breakdown of square footage by grade band. And so you really have to take that into account when we're talking about where we're seeing under and overutilization and what types of buildings. So you can see here, the 19 high school buildings have a larger footprint than 41 elementary buildings. But the middle high and high are the two biggest culprits in terms of underutilization. So it's pretty complex when you start diving into it. This map shows our zone schools and the associated utilization. Nelson had mentioned 86%, and it's kind of our rule of thumb. It's our target that we aim towards to have an efficient school. So the breakdown here, 86 to 100, that's the really sweet spot. Over 100, you are overutilized. 76 to 85 is okay, but then as you start dropping, it really does start to have impacts upon not just the programming, but our ability also to have to maintain a lot of buildings.
Can I ask you a quick question? I don't know to what extent school choice has an impact on these numbers. I don't know if it's a massive impact or a modest impact in the system, but obviously if you live somewhere and go to school somewhere else, that isn't, that changes a little bit, could change a little bit the way you assess utilization of a local school, right?
Absolutely. Choice, and we actually have a slide on it. It's complex.
I'll let you get there if you prefer.
Oh, no, I just want a quick comment. There are different trends among different demographics. We know our Latino students really like to stay close to home. They like to stay in their communities. We know a lot of our Black students are willing or more interested in exercising their choice at all grade bands. And so it does, we'll have a map showing the out-of-zone rate, but it is interesting how those demographics line up with that,
Yeah, okay, thanks.
how that shows up.
I'm sorry. Can I take a slight exception to your phrasing?
Yes, please correct
There.
me. Yes.
Because you said that, I forget exactly your phrasing, but you basically said that Black students choose to exercise their choice more frequently. I think what you're observing is that more Black students travel outside of their district
Correct.
to
My
go to
apologies.
school.
Yes.
But there's a chicken and egg dynamic based on the quality of schools in some of the majority Black neighborhoods that force those students to travel outside of the zone. So, and I know that you didn't intend that, I just wanted to be very clear, but it goes to the chair's point of what are these numbers actually measuring? Or, what is the actual cause of these discrepancies by zone?
Yes. Correct. It is very, very, very nuanced. My apologies on that. Okay. All right, so back to utilization. You can see there's areas of the city where we are very overutilized and parts of the city where we are underutilized. And there's a lot of layers to this. A lot of our seats line up with where we have our buildings, which date back to the 60s, where Baltimore City had almost 200,000 students, and now we have 76,000 students. You can't necessarily pick up a building that has extra seats and move it to where we need them. You can't at all, really. And you can't, one of the options that the state pushes us on is, if you just rezone a school and absorb from like a neighboring one, that can help solve it. But when all of your adjacent schools have that same characteristic of being underutilized or overutilized, it doesn't really solve anything. So these are some of the factors that we look at when we're looking at where seats are needed and just how we can look at this from a district perspective. So while we struggle with some over and underutilization, we have made a lot of progress in surplusing excess seats. We've surplused about 2.7 million square feet since the start of the 21st Century Buildings Plan. All right, and here's where we're going to talk about out of zone. So another consideration that we take into account when we're looking at space needs are school enrollment patterns. Guardian and student preferences can make it difficult to predict where seats are needed when students opt to not attend their zone school, which is about half of our student body. Sorry, any other questions around out-of-zoneness? All right,
Can you
it
go
all
back
goes-
to the surplus slide? One more, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So what does surplus mean technically?
So that means there's no longer a need for the school district for a building, and so the underlying owner is the city of Baltimore. We're just the responsible agency.
Right.
So we say, okay, the city now becomes the responsible agency.
You're
of the building.
closing the school effectively, and then the city can do as it wishes with the building?
Not always. We're a little complicated. Sometimes we might have a program that goes elsewhere, so the program is still open, but the building is no longer needed. That's happening this summer with Joseph C. Briscoe. The program is still going to stay open, but in their renovated facility, and then the city will absorb the surplus Joseph C. Briscoe facility.
Do you have either a sense or actual numbers about how many school buildings have essentially been closed for this or other reasons? Because what I'm after is redevelopment opportunities for those buildings and/or sites. Is it a significant number? Is it a slight number? What are we talking about?
So we've surplused 30 buildings. I don't know how many are currently like in the queue from a DHCD standpoint. They're the ones that handle the disposition
Yeah.
of those surplus facilities.
I don't want to get too far off the schools topic, but maybe I'll say this to the director, which is, I'm sort of aware of a certain tension around the reuse of these school buildings. So it's not really a school system issue because you've made this decision. But Director, the question is, what these buildings, like, for example, school buildings, even church buildings, there are some churches being closed because of the Archdiocese's decision. Those are always in great locations because they tend to be sort of where the community is. And as a result, I want to make sure that we're maximizing the opportunity to use those precious sites for the best possible community benefit use. And I don't know what the process is for that on the city side and whether we're happy with it, unhappy with it, what it looks like. So is that just something we can get a little bit of insight on from you? If not today, then at some point in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if I'm ready to
Yeah,
report on it.
of course.
But to your point, I think something that we hear from residents a lot is that when you lose a school, you want to keep the building for something else. And I know that there's a lot of tension between what the market says and what is possible sustained from an economic perspective over the long term, and then, couple that with need for additional housing and things like that. To your point, I think a lot of these become kind of highly sought-after development sites, depending on the specific of the building and where it is located. But it's something that I'm working on with Acting Commissioner Keene, and, as DHCD becomes the owner and potentially disposer of these buildings, that needs to be something that we work on together.
Thanks.
And then just another note, a lot of times we've known for years about some of the buildings that are slated for surplus, and so we've not made investments in the buildings. Like, we wouldn't put new HVAC in a building that we know we're going to surplus in 3 years. Or then sometimes some of the buildings that we've surplus, they've been associated with programs that had extremely low enrollment, and so we weren't even able to invest CIP funds into those buildings because the state has a threshold of 60% utilization. And so oftentimes the buildings that we do hand over, they're not in the best condition. They require a lot of improvement to kind of bring them up to whatever is needed.
Yeah, and I'm not, in some instances, I might be interested in the building. I'm more interested in the site, because, as I've said, I think they tend to be in locations that are very central to communities and could either be tremendous assets to a community if the right disposition decision is made, and potentially not so much if the wrong decision is made. It's not a school system issue, but thank you for letting me raise it.
Well, we talk about it we meet a lot. And so we have talked about just how being able to demolish something would make things a lot easier. We wouldn't have to do sustained security or have to deal with fires or issues at some of these sites. But even then, that costs millions of dollars to demolish a building.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Take you backwards.
Okay. Any other questions on out-of-zoneness? Okay. All right. Another component of school enrollment patterns are new housing developments. Our office tracks developments that could potentially bring more students to a specific school. The big one, literally the big circle on there, is the Perkins Somerset Old Town. We're not too concerned about that because there's a new building going in right there that's twice the size pretty much of the existing one, so that I'll be able to accommodate those students. We also have our eyes on Keys Point, which is located near the southeast building. In order for our kids to have seats in buildings, we need to be able to provide and maintain those buildings. Capital funding is limited and demand is high. The past few years have been particularly difficult due to dramatically increasing construction costs and an increasing backlog of deferred maintenance. Other jurisdictions are able to put forward more local funds towards their schools' capital programs. The city has significantly increased its CIP allocation in recent years and future years, and we are very appreciative of that. But as you can see, when we are looking at how much total CIP funding we get per student, we are a lot less than other wealthier jurisdictions. So we do include future project requests within our CEFMP. A lot of that is couched within what we anticipate our funding availability will be. Right. So I started this presentation by sharing how the CEFMP is a resource.
Can I ask you, I'm sorry.
no, you're fine.
Just back slide. So that number is what it is, but I guess I don't know how to account for example, all the state blueprint money and so on and so on. And I just don't know much about who gets most of it, et cetera. Does that have any sort of equalizing effect at all here or it's really not what's the total CIP would be a sort of question, what's the total capital money from all sources per pupil? Does the city fare any better in that calculation?
Like from a blueprint perspective?
I'm just saying if you add in, I mean, this is a reflection on the local, I think this is a reflection of the local capital budget, local government capital budget
This
contribution.
was from 2024, I think it was, yeah. We don't include one-time sources of funding. It was really more and this is the comptroller's report. When we look at our funding, we look at recurring funds because it's easier to plan than the one-time. Like all the Built to Learn funds, like they are spent. They went to three schools that were very expensive and we otherwise wouldn't have been able to update them, but that is set. And so we only look at, we really focus more on the recurring funds. So CIP from state, CIP from local, and it was Healthy Schools from state, turned into the Nancy Kopp now.
Yeah, I think with the chair, and I'm interested in as well, is when we talk about the funding that comes from MSA for school construction, right? How does that jive with, when you add that to the Baltimore City number, do we find ourselves at a parity as far as the total investment that's going into capital improvements in Baltimore City Public Schools versus the other jurisdictions?
I mean, is that just the 31.5 or is there money beyond that?
'Cause that would be the 31.5, because I'm looking at this year's CIP, which is at 28.5, so fiscal year 27. So that seems to be just the funding that is directly from our CIP versus MSA dollars that are going towards construction, which may be additional, would be additional as far as capital investments. Would that be correct?
Just to clarify, no money actually comes from MSA. They hold the purse strings. It comes from the state.
That's what, yeah.
And then the
true.
city as well.
That's the average,
Yeah.
yeah, correct.
So again, it's hard to say just because, like, again, it went to 3 projects and then that funding occurs over several years span. And so while we haven't fully expended it, it's hard for us to say this much was spent on City College in this year. It's hard to break it out by year. We can certainly look into that.
But MSA probably could give you that, right? As far as like backward looking. That would be good for us to just understand, as we inform decisions for the future CIPs, if there is a gap that we need to be covering. I think that's the point with this slide, right?
Yes, there certainly is a gap. We've been focusing our CIP and Built to Learn and 21st Century on full building renovations. We still have 84 other schools that aren't receiving a renovation that we do have to do systemic projects on. So there's absolutely a gap. And I know Montgomery County is Montgomery County, but so their total annual CIP allocation is 374, for a single year. And so while they might have twice as many buildings as us, they have way more than twice as much funding. And so just when you think about the amount of funding really needed to maintain, especially buildings that are from the 60s, there is a shortfall and there's absolutely the need.
Yeah, I guess to be sort of overly glib about it, I'm trying to decide how freaked out I should be by that slide. So I'm looking for any broader context, but we
Yeah.
don't have to do this today again, but part of these conversations are because they alert us to things and I see that and I think, well, what's the story there? Is there more to that story? Is it just what it appears to be? Because it's pretty shocking. Yeah, that slide is pretty shocking.
Yeah, so in past years, we had something called the CRV, cost replacement value, and it was saying, all right, if you had to replace your whole portfolio, this is how much you would need, and it was an indicator of how much capital and maintenance funds were needed per year. We're having discussions internally, is that really the best way to present it? So that's a slide I did not include this year on purpose, but again, it's very nuanced. And so we wanted to kind of try and move away from that and more towards just from an equity standpoint, this is where we are.
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
please.
you mentioned parity, and I don't know if this addresses what you're asking, and then I don't know that I have the most updated information, so Maureen, please jump in, as I think you'll need to. If I'm understanding you right, the state has a percentage for each of the jurisdictions. And Baltimore City probably still has the highest percentage in terms of funding. It was 90
So that's,
something.
that's different. So there's two different percentages. There's the cost share allocation, and that's just how much of a project the state will cover. And they would cover like 95, 96% of a project. But that's different because we still only get a certain percentage of the overall CIP pot. And that's,
Right,
so
and that
and it was.
depends on the budget.
Yeah, now it's only 25 million, and then this year was 29, I think. So even if they say they'll cover like 100% of a project, they're only gonna give us enough funding to cover like that one project maybe. It's not 10 projects versus someone who's, a jurisdiction who's having them cover less.
Right, so relative to parity, the answer to your question, in my opinion, is yes and no. Baltimore City, in my view, they've taken into account historically Baltimore City's need for additional assistance, if you will. But relative to, say, Montgomery County, which can, what's the term? I forget what it is. They can
forward
forward
fund.
fund their projects, and then it's, it's gravy to get some of that money back. In our case, we can't do a lot of projects because we can't forward fund, and we can't get funded for practical reasons for a lot of the projects that we've needed for decades, and decades, since I was in school. And that was a long time ago. So there's parity, there are efforts for parity, but there's a long way to go. And I don't, when you ask, should you be, it is shocking, it's been shocking for decades. And should you be worried? Yeah, but we're doing better because, what, you referred back to, that's why 2013, 14, when the 21st century schools.
Yeah, so that's when
started,
it first began.
Things were very different when I worked there. There was like no hope. And then this project came, and we have newer schools. At the time, Baltimore City had the oldest schools in the state. And, infrastructure was crumbling and no hope for enough money to fix the buildings, not enough enrollment in many cases to justify putting money into it. And the state was insisting that we close a lot of that square footage. So it was like a chicken and egg, a very bad chicken and egg situation. So it's much better than it has been, and therefore I think there's a reason for hope for the future. I just don't yet see what it is.
Okay.
Okay. So the CEFMP, it is a resource where we document data, analysis, decisions, planning, and outcomes. We use this data to help inform district initiatives such as the high school plan, which buildings might receive a renovation or addition or a new roof. There's less of the first two just because we have to finish out our current major projects. We also use it to determine relocations of district programs. And most importantly, it is a tool we utilize heavily when we're doing work around the annual review of schools, which is an ongoing process throughout the entire school year. When the 21st Century Buildings Plan began, we were charged with surplusing 26 facilities. As folks here know, closing a school is much more than just checking a box, especially when you're experiencing a net loss of over 15,000 Black students and a net gain of over 8,000 Latino students. And keep in mind, these are happening in different parts of the city. There's a lot of complexity to the information and the data that we try to synthesize and build analysis within the CEFMP that we can then use as a resource with this other district work. All right, and I'd like to end all of my presentations putting in a plug for our dashboards. We have several interactive maps and dashboards available, as well as the PDF chapters from our CEFMP. This typically does get updated in about August, so stay tuned.
Are there other questions for Ms. Gershberg?
Yeah, I have a question.
Please.
First, thank you for the presentation. I think it's a lot of really interesting data. I have randomly found myself on this dashboard website because I am a city nerd.
Great.
Well, I'm a poly nerd, but I'm a nerd of the city. To be very clear about what I meant. But the one thing I did want to ask about was the slide you had where we talked about not the surplus schools one, the enrollment patterns, the developments that you're tracking. And I just wanted to ask, are you also, and the answer may be yes or no, and you don't have to necessarily answer it. But what I don't see here is sort of the vacants work that the city's been doing in collaboration, of course, with the state and GBC and Build and Crew. And the reason I bring this up is because as you shared in the deck, the reduction in population and of course enrollment, but then how it started to level out. And maybe one of the reasons for it may be the housing work that's been getting done. And just for the public's benefit, in 2020, the city had 16,200 vacants, and today we have 11,659. And that reduction has been very linear in the last 6 years, and continues to be linear. So the city is currently on pace to by roughly 2036, 2037 to be at net zero vacants. All the vacants in the city, rehab, disposition, demolished, other buildings built on those properties, et cetera. So I would just encourage you, if you're not already, but I'm assuming you may be, to just make sure you're also tracking where the priority blocks, the priority neighborhoods where the teams are making those investments, because as those neighborhoods become stronger again, those could be areas where we'll see additional enrollment.
Yeah. So we, in chapter 2 of our CEFMP, we cover all the city initiatives. This slide specifically focused on housing developments that were planned or approved and exceeded a certain number of, I think it's yield. So we have something that's called a student yield calculator. And so if based upon where the development is, the type of development, so like, let's say Southeast, row homes, we think 100 row homes might yield 10 kids or something like that. So based upon those parameters, that's what this map shows. But we track things like vacants and like the Pimlico area, master plan, Southwest. We track those things within the text portion of our CEFMP.
That's excellent. What I would like to do, if you guys aren't already like lockstep connected with the team at housing, that's so that you can project where, they can tell you exactly where our investments are being made. I'd love to make sure that you guys are aware of that. And specifically, as those investments are being made and the properties are coming back online, you guys can use that to inform at a very granular, very, very granular level, I think.
Deputy Mayor, can I add to that?
Sure.
So when I was at planning before, and hi Maureen, thanks for the presentation. I know we had conversations when I was on the urban design division team, and we would have conversations about projects that came for urban design and architecture advisory review and when to start tracking those early development entitlement processes. And to your point, I think this is an excellent point. When I think about the Upton Gateway project and all, 39 row houses that came back online there? While that's a rehab project that would not have required the design entitlement process that we make new developments go through, because those are existing, those might not have been counted, but if 39, 3-story Italianate row houses that have 300 square feet are newly renovated, and let's say 15 families with kids move into those because they are big and they are beautiful. I think that might be something, to the Deputy Mayor's point, that we should start to think about including, especially now with the BVRI work, they are really concentrated. It's not so scattershot across the city. So looking at those concentrations of where we are addressing vacancy at scale, whether or not it's like a few blocks at a time, I do think that scale, you'll start to see concentrations in neighborhoods that maybe were historically disinvested, now have new families, newly renovated homes and things like that. So I think it's an excellent point, sir.
I think that's great. One of the things, I'll be blunt, one of the things we struggle with is a centralized source for housing in general. We do talk with housing, but there's not really a good data set that kind of tracks like from the beginning to the end. We absolutely struggle with that. So
You know, the good news is you've come to talk to us, and I can give you exactly this. So afterwards, I would love to share with you the public data and where to find it, because I agree that sometimes if no one's told anybody, you don't know where it is. But it is publicly there, where you can see by neighborhood the amount of vacants that existed in 2025, how many have reduced since 2025, and you can see all, like, disposition, acquisition, NREM. You can see, I mean, it's just data for days. But the point is that we can walk through it together and then maybe ideate on how it could be helpful to you guys in your process and where we can plug it in. And for everybody that's in the public, I just here and online, this is a really good thing to check out. The city, over the last 6 years, was reducing vacancies by about 700 to 750 a year. It's accelerated. We're on pace right now to reduce by about 1,000 this year. And it's going to continue to, you know, as we make more investments, like, accelerate. So I'm excited that I think in a few years, the city's going to look a lot different in a lot of neighborhoods. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to, like, super plug that.
yeah, it's cool.
Can I make one more point? So I think, you know, as you're talking about housing and as we're hearing about schools, it is reminding me that this is a holistic approach to neighborhood development. And so I would suggest maybe, and the working together of this, along with some of the other bigger initiatives that we're thinking about, I think is a really, it's an opportune time to start thinking about this and thinking about as we're hopefully getting more enrollment and hopefully bringing more folks back to the city, just including us and housing and schools, and I'm happy to be a part of that.
Just one question. So first of all, thank you. I thoroughly enjoy your presentation. I think it's one of the best ones that we get every year. And I probably ask around this issue of school choice every year. And I appreciate that you understand how nuanced it really is. My question is, do we have any data or visibility, I'm sure that you do, on like where students, what like home districts students are going from? And like, I think there's probably a lot of information around what the most popular schools are and what schools people are going to. Like every year we have the map of the neighborhoods with declining enrollment. Mm-hmm. And, you know, every year it's the same neighborhoods. And my question always is, how much of that is due to population loss, which is real, but some of it I think is also due to choice and people leaving those districts. Mm-hmm. And then especially now as we talk about all of the work being done around stabilization and like vacant remediation that is hopefully, you know, stemming some of those losses that have been characteristic in our row house communities. I think it'd be interesting to sort of differentiate between those two sources of loss. So I don't know if that information is available or not.
Okay, so I'm going to speak to one, and then if you can just kind of recap the two sources of loss. Do you mean what? Okay, let me.
Two sources being one, true population loss, and the second being school choice and people choosing to go out of district as a reason for declining enrollment. So I would say, all right, so historically, West Baltimore, and actually, honestly, I believe still, I thought I had the map, I don't, is one of our highest populations of students. Like, it is still extremely dense. But again, historically, they have seen the most loss. And so while it looks underutilized, there are still many, many, many kids there. And when there are obviously people leaving Baltimore City, but there are also huge declines in birth rates as well. So it's not always something that we can control for to a certain extent. What was the second part of your
question, or did that answer it?
Well, I guess my question, do we have the data to track of the students who are exercising choice, what districts they're coming from and going to?
What school zones?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, we do. And I would say it's not always a very clear pattern. So for the K-5, this is a breakdown of why people are going outside of their zone school. For half of that half are choosing a traditional school that's not their zone school, and that varies. Sometimes this program might not be stronger, but there's a perception that it's stronger. Sometimes it might be closer, like our zones, like you might live on a zone line and that other school just happens to be closer and it makes more sense. Sometimes they have a parent or a grandparent or just another guardian that's there for after school, so it makes more sense. So it's a really wide variety of reasons. And we also have a pretty mobile population. The way we capture our in-zone rate is with our 930 data, so it could be that students have moved or they might have a homeless designation. There's a number of reasons why a student might live in Cherry Hill, but we show them going to school at Woodhome. Like, that does happen. We have those outliers all the time. So it's, I say it's a variety of reasons.
So understood, and you explained that better than I could articulate, so thank you. I guess the one piece that I'm still missing is you have plenty of enrollment numbers and you have the map and you have it by district. And you can tell me in a school district, your school zone, whatever, what the enrollment change is year over year.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to all those school choice reasons that you just listed, we've been talking about the larger factors, birth rate, people moving out of the city. Can we differentiate between those numbers? You can tell me that this school has 500 less students than it did last year, made up number, and those numbers are used as rationale for decisions around closing schools, surplusing buildings, moving programs. And again, I think I always bring up this chicken and egg thing. So to get at that issue, can we differentiate how much of the enrollment decline is contributed to external factors like birth rate and people relocating out of the city versus how much enrollment decline is attributed to not population decline, but students going outside of the district? Because I think that that's an important distinction.
Yes, so as part of the annual review team, we look at all those factors when we're looking at a school that might be proposed for closure. We look at the historic and current out-of-zone rates. We say, okay, it's consistent, or like, oh, we noticed this bump here. And we also look at the census data. We'll see, all right, has the census data, remember I said our city trends often are mirrored in our enrollment trends. So if we're looking at a school, we want to say, okay, what's the CSA data for this area? If we see it's declining, if we see the enrollment's declining, we can see those relationships. It's also a little more nuanced. Like, let's say school X gets this principal who's a superstar, and we see like the enrollment skyrocket within 2 years because that perception, that school choice, like that's real. That's one of the things that makes it complicated. I mean, I love our superstar principals, but it makes it harder. Like, sometimes we'll see like a spike, nothing to do with like growth in the neighborhood. Again, it's just a very dynamic environment where, again, when our parents and our guardians have a lot more where they can make that choice, like it is exercised aside from.
That's exactly the phenomenon that I'm talking about. I guess my question is, do you observe that also in the inverse?
Yes.
I think it's easier to see, and we all anecdotally understand whether it's perception or reality, what the top preferred schools that people compete to get into. Do we look at it in the inverse? Do we know what the top 5 schools that people run from are?
That is absolutely a factor. I don't know that the school district would use that wording, but we do look at, again, we work with our ECT office, Enrollment Choice and Transfer, within the annual review team. Like it's a lot of different departments involved so that everyone can kind of give their input into it. And so we have folks who literally run the choice process and they say, oh, parents are asking for this, parents aren't asking for this. Like here's the data on what those top 5 choices are. So yeah, we do take that into consideration.
And if I'm on, Vice Chair Stevenson and Commissioner Allen, I know you'll appreciate this. So I won't get into specific names, I will talk about some schools because we have the example, for instance, West Baltimore, 9th District, give you an example of, for instance, a neighborhood like Union Square that has Stewart Hill. And even though the neighborhood itself is actually growing, many of the parents who are moving to that neighborhood are not sending their kids, or they weren't sending their kids to that school. Some of them were sending their kids to Francis Scott Key, right? So you have folks who are going to Peninsula or going southeast, right? And it goes back to your perception, or to your point around the neighborhoods as well. So what was happening in that district is that some of that loss is being masked by the growth of Spanish-speaking students as well, right? So again, we think about what the exchange is looking like. I will tell you, it's a conversation that council's been having, and I chair the education committee. We've talked about this even with the incoming CEO around school choice. And to put a finer point on it, some of this has reared its head as it relates to the pre-K slots, right? And so now we start thinking about how it's been prioritized, where students are coming from areas that have been less desirable in terms of schools, going to other places, some parents not getting their choice. So again, school choice is a big part of what's going on. And again, the flux is happening in neighborhoods. So I'm glad you're actually naming what it is. And I know we see it anecdotally. I can give you lots of examples about it, but it all works together. So, thank you.
If there are no other questions, obviously, we're not here to educate the kids, but these population and land use patterns are like core for what we and the planning department are trying to do. And the information flow and the decision making kind of goes both ways. Like this is really vital information for us to understand what's going on, and hopefully what we're thinking about also leads to where we want people to go, neighborhoods, the vacant mayor's vacants program, et cetera. It would be helpful perhaps if maybe you separately. We could talk about, I'd be very interested, and I'll bet others would be also, in getting a little better view of the folks who are going out of zone and, the particularly where, the exercising school choice for one reason or another, just to understand. And part of that may be the data that also explains what appears to be a decline, which may not be it's not really there's a decline, there's a pure decline, objectively a decline, then there's just a going somewhere else decline. So it would be nice to sort of tease that out a little bit. Maybe we can come back together at some point and hear about that very specifically. Because I think that really does relate to the core mission of what we're trying to do here, which is where are people living, why are they living there, how can we get more people to live here, and so on. Does that make sense?
Can I ask one question too, clarifying question? We're having this conversation about in zone, out of zone. Mm-hmm. How do charter schools and private schools fit into that as well? Are they measured as choice, or are they not counted?
So charter schools are city schools. Okay. They are under our umbrella. We have buildings that some of them are occupied, some of them have their own private buildings. So K-5, that's the way we use. The reason we use that metric is because for those grades, you are guaranteed a seat at your zone school. So that's pretty straightforward. So for the 45% that are attending out of zone, 33% were choosing an out of zone charter.
Oh,
right.
Got it.
And then it gets complicated. So some of the zones on here are charter schools. They're conversion charters. Yep. And so with the conversion charters, they must let in their neighborhood kids, but then they say a set number of seats are open to a lottery system if they have space. Some don't. And then other charters are 100% lottery.
That's helpful. But to the point about
Oh, and then private schools, they are not part of this, but we do talk about them within the CEFMP. There's a report that goes out by the state every year on the amount of enrollment. However, keep in mind, it is self-reporting, so it is not perfect. And it might be that the private schools in Baltimore City, but the kids attending are from also in and outside the city.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a very, this is more of a process question. I know we're being asked to approve this. I'm just kind of curious because I don't think I remember if I was involved in this last year. Are we approving it because the state requires the local planning body to approve it?
Yes.
So it's coming to us with that requirement. It's not a city requirement that we approve it. It's the state. Can you articulate what that is for me, just so I know?
Yeah, so the CEFMP is a state requirement, and within there, we have to have a letter of support from our local planning jurisdiction. Basically saying the school system has worked with the planning department, so they're not just in silos.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And thank you for saying the word silos, because it gives me a chance to remind everybody that we did in the briefing, this commission and the mayor's office are all about trying to connect dots and do silo busting. And I think, frankly, some of the conversation we've had today just about data sharing makes me optimistic that there are opportunities for us to do that. So thank you. And I agree with the vice chair, your presentation is very interesting and helpful. So let's follow up in the way that's been discussed. And with that, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the plan, please.
Move to approve.
Councilman, is there a second? Commissioner Allen? Okay, is there any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote on the approval, please. Mr. Tissot?
Robin Allen.
Approved.
John Bullock.
Approved.
Christine Griffin.
Approved.
Claudia Jolin.
Approved.
Doug McCoach.
Approve.
Calvin Young.
Approved.
Eric Stevenson.
Approve.
John Laria.
Approved. Okay, thank you very much. Let's please call the next item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 5 is the Northwood Inspire Plan. In the 3rd District, Maria Smaldone will present, and Patrick. Maria and Patrick will present together.
We'll just do introductions of ourselves. I'm Patrick McMahon. I'm one of the Inspire planners in the Community Planning and Revitalization section of the Department of Planning.
My name is Maria Smaldone. I am the Northeast and Outer Southeast District Planner with the Department of Planning.
And this is a great sort of lead off for our piece. We'll try and be a little faster, but wait for. Sorry, just waiting for the slides to come up. But the Inspire program is really trying to build upon all the things we were just talking about. I think as folks know, roughly $1 billion was given by the state to make improvements to schools in Baltimore City. Sorry. And the Inspire program, the city made a commitment to do community plans for the neighborhoods around those schools on the idea that strong neighborhoods support strong schools and strong schools support those neighborhoods. And so the Inspire program is really designed to make sure that we're maximizing the benefit of that funding that we got for schools and to support the communities around those. And for each of those Inspire plans, I believe this is the 3rd Inspire plan that this version of the commission has seen. For each of those, there's 3 primary components. There's the primary walking routes, so improvements to the sidewalks and other things around the school. There are recommendation report that has a wide variety of recommendations, and then there's a community project. And Northwood Elementary School is located in Northeast Baltimore. It's along Loch Raven. This area was sort of all developed around the 50s, and this school that was originally built in 1952. They started the renovation process in, I think, around 2017, and the Inspire planning process was launched in 2021 while the school was still at its other space, and did a lot of work around primary walking routes. There was a lot of turnover of staff during the Inspire planning process. There were 3 separate Inspire planners that worked on this, Jennifer Leonard, Eli Pousson, and myself, and 2 different district planners, Carmen Morosin and Maria. And so that's caused a little bit of delay and chaos in this process, but I'm gonna let Maria speak about.
Yeah, so to talk a little bit more about some of the key features of the Northwood Inspire planning area. Northwood Elementary is located along the main roadway of Loch Raven Boulevard in the Paring Loch neighborhood of Northeast Baltimore. The school draws students from the neighborhood of Paring Lock, where it's situated, as well as the surrounding neighborhoods of Woodburn Heights, New Northwood, Stonewood, Pentwood, Winston, and Hillen. The original school building was constructed in the early 50s as this portion of the city was developed post-World War II and sat very close to Loch Raven Boulevard, while the new school is set back significantly from the roadway. You can see in the top right photo that the new school building is set back significantly. There's also a portion of Chicken Run Park just to the south of the school, as well as the Northwood Recreation Center, which was built around the same time as the original school building, is just to the north side of the new school building. There's row house portions of the neighborhood to the north and east, as well as apartment complexes along Loch Raven Boulevard to the west.
The rec center is the building within that campus?
Yes.
At the top, the sort of
So-
darker roof?
Correct.
Okay.
So that's the recreation center, and then the new school building is just below it, but they do share a campus. So the majority of this community is zoned for residential use with a mix of clustered row homes on side streets and apartment complexes largely along the arterial and collector roadways. Anchor institutions in the plan area include MedStar Good Samaritan Hospital to the north of the school on Loch Raven Boulevard, as well as Morgan State University to the west on Paring Parkway, and both of them are major employers in the area. Next slide. So the residents in this area of the city are over 80% Black. The neighborhood has a slightly higher average household income than the Baltimore City as a whole, and also has a slightly larger household size on average than the city on average. There's a household size of 2.5 people versus 2.3 citywide. And this area also has a higher rate of homeownership than the city as a whole.
Okay. Again, those primary walking routes, these were early on in the process. The planning staff works with community members, school staff, to look at what are the streets that folks walk on the most, and there were investments in the streets around here made in 2022 along Loch Raven Boulevard, Winford, Hartsdale, Fenwick, and Hillen Road. And then this is a selection of the community meetings that were held as a part of this planning process. So you can see we met with a number of different community organizations, as well as held meetings at the school, and also went to other events to try and reach out to folks as much as we could. And we're really appreciative to the community members that were involved in this planning process for the last 5 years going through this whole discussion.
So I do want to note, as we kind of look at some of the pre-existing plans that that overlap with the Northwood Inspire plan, the Northeast is a part of the city where there are very few existing small neighborhood plans. This would be the first one if adopted. So this plan is key to helping guide community efforts in this area of the city moving forward. However, there are quite a few larger citywide plans that this Inspire plan feeds into, including the city's comprehensive plan, which identifies the Inspire program as a key investment in school and communities, and also the comp plan prioritizes the stabilization of middle neighborhoods. All of the neighborhoods in this Inspire plan area are considered middle neighborhoods. The Baltimore Green Network Plan supports the development of a specific Greenway Trails segment that goes through the Northwood Inspire area, which would connect Chickapin Run Park with Morgan State University, Lake Montebello, and other nearby locations in the proposed trail network, which our Inspire plan also recommends. The city's separated bike network plan recommends bike facilities along Pentwood Ave and Woodburn Avenue, both of which have not yet materialized. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Morgan State is located just to the east of Northwood Elementary, and both the facilities plan, master plan, and bike master plan for Morgan advocate for additional connection points for students and community members to commute to and through the campus, and this plan advocates for that as well. Yeah, so all Inspire plans contain recommendations that generally fall under and support 5 key goals, which include investments in housing and market strengthening opportunities, improving public safety, creating connections and access, creating opportunities for health and wellness, and creating environmentally sustainable and clean neighborhoods. So we'll provide a couple of key examples for each of those. Go back 1 second. So just wanted to note that the draft recommendation report includes 11 strategies and 30 recommended actions to support those strategies. The primary leads on implementing each of these recommendations include the surrounding community associations, Baltimore City Schools, associated nonprofit and private partners, city agencies, including Department of Transportation and Rec and Parks, with Department of Planning serving as a support for overall achievement of these goals. As I noted earlier, this is a neighborhood that has a very strong rate of home ownership, but because this is a middle neighborhood, we want to make sure it stays a stable neighborhood with strong home ownership. So to that end, we're recommending that we market area homes to first-time home buyers to promote new incentives to help renters become homeowners. This includes promoting the Buy Back the Block initiative, which is managed by Live Baltimore to encourage renters to purchase properties in the neighborhoods where they live, as well as to purchase homes in other select neighborhoods around the city. Currently, only Woodburn Heights and New Northwood are eligible neighborhoods in this Inspire area, but we recommend that maybe expand to other neighborhoods in the future. Next slide. We also, to improve public safety, we recommend that the community explore opportunities for mural or other school area beautification projects. This is just one example of a retaining wall on Fenwick Avenue, where the Northwood Parent-Teacher Association has expressed an interest in creating a mural or some other public art to connect the public walkways between the school and the community.
And additionally, one of the main pieces that the community's been very interested in is improving pedestrian safety, particularly for students that walk to the school, and especially at this intersection of Hartsdale and Lochraven. And so we've spent a lot of time working with DOT, with the principal, with the crossing guards that are there, as well as community members. Everybody agrees that this intersection has been a mess, and so we've changed signage. We've worked on a number of things. Recently, these flex posts and striping got installed. I think folks have seen that this is an incremental process to improve this location, and we're going to be continuing monitoring this with the school and with DOT to make sure that we make the right pieces, and have talked about, if these pieces don't work, making this street one way on a permanent basis. Additionally, as Maria mentioned, the Chinkman Run is an amazing asset right next to the community, and there is a trail that would be part of the Baltimore Greenways Trail Network. Rails Trails Conservancy Build and Northeast Community Organization all work together to get a grant to develop the initial concept for that. We've been working with the community organizations to make sure that they're involved in that trail planning, and I think we've secured an alignment that some of that will skirt right along Hartsdale next to the school. I think it's not, there's still a lot of other things to move forward with this piece, but right now they've got funding to move towards 30% plans on that design.
We can come back to this sort of broader topic later, but why long? Every time I see long, it makes me a little anxious. Time frame long. How long is long? Why not shorter than long?
Generally, I think we've used 1 to 2 years for short, 3 to 5 years for medium, and long as something that's going to take more than 5 years. And so short term, the sort of pieces that we've been working on at the Hartsdale and Lochraven intersection, we've already made a lot of those investments and are going to continue making those. Designing and building a trail is a more time-consuming process, and particularly because here you've got, for say here, like crossing Chinkman Run, The sidewalks on Loch Raven aren't necessarily appropriate for that, and so if you're gonna, there's a number of places that the plan sort of is looked at, whether you need a pedestrian bridge, or there's, this piece sort of tries to avoid some wetlands and other pieces, but it is a challenging process.
I don't know if this question is rhetorical or actual, but why does that take 5 years? I mean, I just fail to understand time and time again, when we see these things that seem like, you know, a reasonably sized bite of the elephant, and then the time associated with it is long, 5+ years. And I mean, is it money? Is it process? Is it willpower? I don't know what it is, but like, that does not look like a 5-year project to me.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of those different pieces. I think some of it is that some of this is on Rec and Parks property, some of this is on DOT pieces.
We all work
I
for
think-
the same mayor.
Yeah, I think some of it is also funding, and right now, federal funding for trail stuff is not in as great supply as it could be. But I strongly agree with you that we need to figure out how do we make these projects move.
I know you don't disagree, and I know you didn't pick this to be difficult, but you can appreciate it. So I have a couple of other related questions, but please continue.
Sounds good.
All right, so for creating opportunities for health and wellness, we recommend partnering with the Northwood Recreation Center, that the school partner with Recreation Center to host seasonal programming in the green space around Northwood Elementary School. Many of the 21st century school sites have a ton of open space, and this school in particular is a 13-acre site. It's probably one of the largest in City Schools' portfolio. And so there's the opportunity to utilize that space once an agreement has been worked out between Rec and Parks, City Schools, and neighborhood leaders about using that space for various outdoor recreational activities, as well as potentially cultural events like, you know, movies on the lawn or something like that. Next slide. We are also recommending that to ensure that stormwater management infrastructure on the school property is well maintained and identify other stormwater management issues in the area. This is an issue at many 21st century schools, but there has been a particular focus on efforts at this school given the environmental interests of several local community leaders. And we do recommend that City Schools partner with folks such as the Greater Baltimore Wilderness Coalition, which is currently has a pilot partnership with City Schools to maintain stormwater management areas. That could potentially expand to Northwood Elementary.
And then that section along Chinkman Run and Hartsdale is a place that also is one of a number in the area that has seen a fair amount of illegal dumping, people pulling up and dumping trash down the hill into that Chinkman Valley. The community's been very interested in figuring out what are things that could be made to make it more challenging for folks to legally dump at that location. And this is going to be along where that proposed trail alignment is, and so I think the community's interested in what are things that they could do in the shorter term, faster than 5 to 10 years, that could make improvements to that corridor and that will build the pieces for that longer term trail.
And just remind me what medium means?
3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years to develop and implement design solutions to discourage illegal dumping. 3 to 5 years.
I hope we can get it done faster.
Me too.
We've got an engaged steering committee that has been guiding this process, and that steering committee will transition into being an implementation committee. So that committee is who we've been working with throughout this process to develop these recommendations, and then we will be working with those same folks as we move forward to get all these implemented. And so. Our recommendation?
The community project. The community
And also, I guess we have not selected a community project. There has been some discussion about that sort of trail and illegal dumping piece as one option. There are other members of the community that'd like to see some community signage as part of that community project. And so We've got roughly $100,000 for each of the Inspire programs for each school to do a community project, and we'll be working closely with this group to come up with what's going to be that community project, generally out of something that's a recommendation within the plan.
Great,
So
thank you.
We would like to recommend that the commission adopt this plan.
Appreciate it. There are, for the record, I'll note, there are 3 letters of support which are posted, but I'll just, for the record, one is from the president of Northwood Tigers PTA, Sincere Halt. One is from Pairing Lock Community Association, Laretha Myers, and the other is from Councilman Dorsey of the 3rd District. Lots of support. So I wanted my colleagues to offer comments as well. You guys are great. This is not about you, it's not about the community, it's not about any of the terrific people who've been involved, and this is an excellent plan. I mean, I've read it in advance of the meeting, and for folks who haven't had a chance to read it, you gave us a few select implementation items, but on page 49, 50, 51, 52, there are, I think you said how many, I didn't count, 30 specific implementation items. The timeframes are short, medium, and long. The plan doesn't talk about what they are, but you've explained what they are. And, what I'm focused on and what I'm interested in is what is the process by which I would have asked you to define those 3 terms. We've sort of done that already. But what's the process by which we figure out implementation? Who's responsible? What's the accountability measure? I'm beginning to think, and I don't know if this has been discussed, and how many Inspire plans do we have?
I believe this will be the 19th of 24.
Right.
Eventual Inspire plans to be adopted, and my role and Yafa's role as the Inspire planners has been to both move forward with the development of the plans, but also to work on implementation of the plans. That shift, as we're getting more of these adopted, is shifting more to a focus around implementation. And I'm particularly excited to say with the CIP, there's $1 million in FY27 funding for DOT to do traffic calming projects that have come out of Inspire plans. And nearly every Inspire plan has recommendations for how do we manage traffic in neighborhoods, and so that's going to allow us to do a lot of implementation of the transportation recommendations. We've also, I think, as we're growing closer to our colleagues in housing and community development, that's going to give us more ability to work on implementation of those pieces. We meet on a monthly basis with each of the departments to talk about implementation of pieces, and then there are portions of this that are more directed by community organizations, and so not all of this is on the city, but I think there is growing amount of resources and focus on making sure that these pieces are being implemented and that we are moving forward with them. But also this gives community organizations the ability to come to the city and say, hey, you guys committed to this, what's going on with it? Or to seek other funding sources to go for grants and other pieces like that to say, hey, we've got an adopted plan from the city. This is something that we're committed to, and to use that as part of a grant application.
Right. No, and you've explained that before, and I didn't realize originally that was important to have an adopted plan to be, which is a valid purpose. And by the way, I mean, I think all these 30 recommendations are great. I mean, I don't disagree with any of them, and frankly, I defer to you and the community who adopted them in terms of whether they're right. They certainly seem reasonable and appreciate the work. When was the first Inspire plan adopted?
I believe 2018.
Right. So do we have a process for tracking implementation of Inspire plans that go back to 2018?
We've been just recently asked by Councilwoman Middleton to take a look at all the Inspire plans within her district, and so we're going to be having a meeting with her, I believe, next week to go through all of those, and that is helping us sort of go through that process of making sure that we're tracking all of the different Inspire plans.
We've only seen a few, at least in my time in the commission, and they tend to have this sort of format, but do they historically have sort of this rhythm with an implementation at the end with short, medium, long? Is it sort of a template that you follow? So
I would say that the Inspire plans over the years, we've been trying to come up with more SMART goals. Recently, a lot of the earlier plans have sort of like deal with vacant housing.
Right.
And so now we've been trying to be much more specific about saying, on this block, we're going to prioritize this issue, as opposed to just sort of saying, we should fix things overall.
Right, I mean, I'm always, we've all done lots of planning processes, and I want to make sure that this is not, and I know it's not, but like, here's the worst version of it. The worst version of it would be that this is the result of a bunch of yellow, pink, and green stickies that someone put on a wall during a charrette or a planning session. And I know this is not that, but like, that's the outcome I'm trying to avoid, right? We're trying to have actionable items within timeframes that make sense, and I just think there has to be some form of accountability, and I don't know, I mean, if there are 19 of them, I'm not suggesting the commission is going to be able to hear 19 updates, but I do think, I mean, I know I have some interest in some sense of what the implementation has been, and I've made this point before, frankly, not just on Inspire plans, but on all the plans, which would be a Herculean effort, but this question of turning plans into implementation, you have these, they're excellent. I mean, I haven't seen an Inspire plan so far that hasn't been an excellent piece of work and shows cooperation, leadership from the city, from community leaders. They're great, but they're only great if we do something with them. And I also don't know, and we've raised this before, I think the whole commission has, about cost. There's never any indication in these plans of what the cost is. And I don't know, I'm not saying that's a failure. I'm just saying it's kind of a missed opportunity, meaning like, we talk about converting these into CIP and so on, but we don't really have any sense of how much the cost would be. And not that you could cost estimate every one of 30 items, but I'm just trying to describe overall developing some means of accountability for these plans. Otherwise, frankly, it's a lot of work. I want to make sure we're getting the return on the investment. It looks like you want to say something, Madam Director.
Yeah, so I think it's a great point, and I do think that there are some basic costs associated with the recommendations that could be pulled out, and of course, those change over time. As you heard, some things take 3, 5, 10 years to implement, and we've obviously seen supply chain over the last couple of years change cost for projects and it's been wild to watch those costs fluctuate. Having said that, I am curious, you brought up grants and the ability to attract grants with an adopted or accepted plan. And it's been my experience as well that having good technical assistance and good solid planning can attract funding. So I'm wondering, as we're tracking these plans, maybe there's an opportunity for us to understand, A, what is the associated CIP costs allocated to the plans to get them executed, but then also, is there an opportunity for us to track what kind of grants we're getting? And with that, could we also be looking at the housing market typology, a snapshot in time of what are values now and what might they be in the future, so that we have some sort of evidence-based track record of the work that the planners are doing? And I agree with you. I think that the plan is excellent. I know it's got my name on it, but the planners who did all of the work on it, I think did a great job. And I really appreciate this recommendation table in particular. I love that we're moving towards a place that is something that is trackable and implementable. And I think that this is a step in that direction.
Thank you. I'm sorry for talking so much. Other colleagues, questions or comments of the staff or on the subject?
I'll make one brief comment. When you undertake to renovate the schools as a part of 21st Century Schools program, there's a limit to that scope. And for years and years, all we talked about in the department was how can we extend our presence into community capacity building, utilizing the school renovation programs. And Inspire has done that. The suggestions are very granular and achievable and driven by communities. It's just a great example of scalable planning, scaled down to immediate community needs. So it's great. Do it.
Thank you.
Other commissioners, questions, comments?
I would just say, generally, this what the chair has outlined, I think, is a worthy exercise for the executive team at planning, and I'm happy to be a part of it, to just think through, like, some of the stuff shocks me at what has been projected as the timeline for it, but they do seem like very sensible things, and with the right push, I mean, none of these things are anything where, like, with the right push, doesn't get done quickly. It's just like, how do we make sure that it gets lifted so that way it gets the push that it needs? So let's walk through what the processes need to be to execute.
Thank you very much. Okay, other questions or comments? If not, is there a motion to accept and adopt the Northwood Inspire Plan?
Motion to approve or adopt?
Vice Chair, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner McCoach. Is there further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Tissot?
Robin Allen.
Approve?
John Bullock.
Approved.
Christine Griffin.
Approve?
Claudia Jolin.
Approve.
Doug McCoach.
Approve.
Calvin Young.
Approved.
Eric Stevenson.
Approve.
John Laria.
Approved. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move to the next item.
Item number 6, revised final design approval, 3700 block of Boston Street, AVA-BREWER'S Hill, signage in the First District. Caitlin Audette will present.
Good afternoon. As stated, I'm here to share the final design of signage for the new development that was previously already received final design approval at 3700 Boston Street. The property is located in Canton and Brewers Hill. Like I say Canton just so you kind of know where it is, but it is actually in the Brewers Hill Neighborhood Association boundaries. You can see here Boston Street is to the south, Toon Street is to the north, and I have a map with that shows the actual boundary. You can see the west is kind of like a parking lot. It's Dean Street. And then to the east is the street with kind of the trail goes along, and you can see the Fresh Market to across the street. And here's another view looking towards the east. So kind of across the parking lot that is shared between the two developments. Okay, and then this is getting into the PUD. So this is a really unique site. If you're familiar with the area, you know it has this swoop that kind of goes through the neighborhood that's reflected in the PUD. And so this building doesn't follow the swoop or those historic kind of boundary lines. And because of that, portions of the building are in the PUD and some portions are not. And so you can see the areas that are in red are those areas that are in the PUD. And so those areas have a little bit more freedom when it comes to signage, right? As you all are aware, our signage regs are somewhat stringent. And within a PUD, you have more flexibility as the final design approval comes here, and we can exceed what might be in the underlying zoning. So the signage that's being proposed is generally within the areas shown in red. And so there are a total of 14 signs that are being proposed for a total of 1,574 square feet. I don't expect you all to read this right here, but I did want to have it for reference as necessary. These are broken down into different categories that are based off of the zoning code. And I'm going to go through them individually looking at the elevations just so you can better understand what's going on. So on the west elevation, they're proposing a number of signs. One is a parapet identity sign, so that's at the roof line. One is a perpendicular sign, and that's along Boston Street, and you can see it in the pink. There's also a facade identity sign that's at the ground floor. And these are all, again, within the general area, that's the PUD. And here's what they would look like. On the south elevation, so this is facing Boston Street, you can see where that perpendicular sign is located. But again, not a lot of signage here. Oh, and one thing I did want to talk about is this short-term signage. So each of these, you can see a dotted line area showing where short-term signage could be. And so they are identifying where they might have like for lease signs. They want to do that now because they want to be able to build that infrastructure into the building as they're completing it, so that when they put a sign up, they can easily take it down because they have the infrastructure built into that. Our zoning code no longer has any allowance for short-term signs. We consider all signs to be long-term. which I think is fair considering that many signs never disappear, even if they were short-term. So you'll see where they are intending to put those short-term signs in these dotted line areas. The applicant is here and can provide more information if you have any questions about that. So on the south elevation, you'll see again that dotted line area where the short-term sign is located. And then there is a very small little yellow box on the far west side, and that is the address number. On the east elevation, this is the southern end of the east elevation, you can see another parapet identity sign as well as a painted sign. And here's what that would look like with a rendering. And then this is the north end of that east elevation. You can see another parapet identity sign and then a short-term sign that's with, again, the dotted lines. And here's what that would look like. There was also a very small loading sign. And the north end, which is along Toon Street, there's a very small window sign, and again, the dotted line showing where that short-term sign could be. So for planned unit development, minor changes, to determine that it is a minor change, we have to review the requirements. And so this has no change to the approved number of dwelling units, no change to the maximum building height, no change to the type, location, or arrangement of land use, no change to the boundaries, no decrease in public open space, and it complies with the PUD master plan. So the proposed new signage will not impact equity concerns. That was with the development. And the notification, the Brewers Hill Neighborhood Association was notified of this action. So we recommend approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions for Ms. Audette? Two quick ones. One, notify the association, but we don't have any, haven't heard from them, but you're satisfied that they're aware?
We have emailed them. Apparently, they do go on a bit of a summer break, but they know we continue to do business, so.
Okay, and then one sort of technical question. So this is obviously not an area of special sign control, right? But I think your report at one point says this would not be allowed in the base zone, but it's a PUD, so we have the flexibility. How does the proposed signage package compare to what would be permitted in an area of special sign control if you exercise the discretion? Is it within that discretion, or is it beyond even the ASSC discretion?
It would be within an ASSC. It would be allowed within an ASSC.
Well,
I mean, to be an ASSC, you need to have two.
no, I understand. I'm just trying to size. It doesn't seem like 1,500 feet of signage. I mean, we're really here mostly because you've approved the building's under construction, but now the signage package is showing up, and now we have to approve the signage package.
Exactly.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Are there any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the recommendation? This would be to give final design approval of signage for the AVA-BREWER'S Hill. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Jolin, is there a second?
Second.
Second from the vice chair. Are there any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a roll call vote. Mr. Tissot?
Robin Allen.
Approve.
John Bullock.
Approved.
Christine Griffin.
Approve.
Claudia Jolin.
Approve.
Doug McCoach.
Approve.
Eric Stevenson.
Approved.
John Laria.
Approved. The directors reminded me I didn't actually ask if anybody here wanted to speak to this, and I apologize. If I were the applicant, I would not speak to this.
At this point, yeah.
But is there anybody here who wanted to be heard? Okay, just want to be sure. And I apologize for the error. Nope, perfectly fine.
And Mr. Chair, before we move on, if we wanted to include Deputy Mayor's vote if he wished.
I'm sorry. Oh, Deputy Mayor, did you want to record a vote for this item?
Is it needed to?
No.
No.
Okay, because I missed the whole thing.
It is not. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Moving on to the next item, please. Yep.
Thank you. Item 7, major subdivision, 2201 KLOMAN Street, 1 Westport, parcels C through F. Request for a waiver in the 10th District. Austin Davis will present.
Hello. Alrighty, so we have, is this the, okay, I think I copied and pasted the wrong slides. But yeah, this is KLOMAN Street. This is parcel C through F for Westport. I have the parcels kind of highlighted here in this red box. And here's the final subdivision plan. This is the composite view of it, not broken apart into the various sheets, where we can kind of see the block layout, right-of-way layout, mews, and all the private alleyways. And just to give a little bit of kind of history on the project, it goes back to 2005, actually, where the community's master plan was adopted. 2007, there was a PUD 139 recommendation for it, and then in 2012, the Middle Branch Transportation Plan was adopted. Brings us to 2015, South Baltimore Gateway adoption, and then in 2020, the concept master plan by UDAP for the overall Westport was was approved. And then 23, we had the reimagined Middle Branch was adopted. The plan expiration was waived, and then Parcel B red light changes came in last year, and this year we kind of kicked off the pre-development of this. SPRC was granted September of last year, and then here we are for the final subdivision. So these were larger industrial blocks along the water. It's TOD4 zone W2, and like I mentioned, this was part of the One Westport Master Plan redevelopment. And there's going to be the future Middle Branch Park and Baltimore Greenway Trail. However, this is just for the for this sets of parcels here, C through F. So the final site design is 210 total lots, 198 residential, 268 dwelling units, 587 vehicle parking spaces, and 1,600 square feet of ground floor retail. There's some street access and network design where KLOMAN Street is the private right-of-way. Then private road A, is the internal vehicular circulation, and then we have the mews of A, B, C, and D as labeled on the package for the central pedestrian spines, the north-south corridors. C is the waterfront block, which the waiver applies to, and I'll get into that later. And then private Clare Street will maintain the historic Westport grid with the private alleys at variable widths for the rear-loaded garage access. So into this was a waiver request, so I'll just kind of explain the waiver authority. Section 1.4 of the subdivision regulations grants the planning commission the ability to waive where practical difficulties may arise from strict compliance, and this purpose is really to help better serve some sort of design that demonstrates a creativity that's compatible with its surroundings. What was being requested for waiver is section 3.11, which is the right-of-way for mews. Our regs have them at least 30 feet in width. However, the applicant is proposing a 15-foot mews for the townhouses fronting the Middle Branch private mews C, which is a variable width at 22 to 22 and a half feet. So in short, why the waiver applies to this site, the first ground that we're looking at is its better design. 15 feet mews are a safe pedestrian connection for both the trail and access to the Little Branch. The mews are proposed where streets really can't be provided, so it kind of preserves the existing public road system and the Westport orientation, towards the established community across the tracks. And then it advances the subdivision purposes, really, which is kind of our conformity to plans here. So we're trying to, go ahead.
No, Mr. Davis, what's a mews?
Oh, it's the kind of walkways here.
Right, but the plan has, they're sometimes called mews, they're sometimes called private alleys.
Mm-hmm.
I just trying to get my head around exactly what we mean when we say mews. Is it just mean?
It's going to be permeable, not paved.
There's a sidewalk in it, no cars.
Yeah, it's like pedestrianized open space essentially, but not really open space.
Is this, we haven't seen the development plan for this yet, right? Just the subdivision plan?
This is just the subdivision plan.
So we're gonna see a development plan?
It should be in I put it in.
Well, the packet includes
But,
landscape plans.
There's landscape plans, correct? And then the development plan should have been in there.
Well, what are we approving today? A subdivision plan?
This is the
or
subdivision plan.
Not a final development?
Not a final development plan. It's the subdivision plan for C through F as a part of the larger project. And this is also pursuant to the waiver requested for these specific mews.
So we're gonna see this again in the form of a final development plan at some future date?
I'm presuming because the original was broken up into sections, so we'll have to come back for a final, bow on the top package for everything.
So a mews is a pedestrian, is it vehicular or
No.
is it, it's not
No.
vehicular? It's just pedestrian?
Yes.
But it's not the alleys, the plan has alleys and mews.
Correct.
And those are two mutually exclusive things.
Correct. The alleys provide access for the vehicles to the rears of their properties, and the mews are just, act like space.
Okay, well, carry on, I'll catch up.
Okay. I actually will hop over to our precedent because Parcel B saw this exact same waiver for the complementary mews on the opposite side, which was also granted, I believe, in 2023. And it was the same section for 50-foot mews along Waterfront Way in Parcel B. And we agreed with the applicant that the practical difficulty was the findings for the waiver, in addition to the precedent, given where Parcel C through F are constrained by the immovable boundaries of the middle branch of the railroad and all of the other corridors. So the 30-foot mews would be practically impossible, and we agree with the applicant that this is a better use of the land and helps improve for the final site. Therefore, staff's recommendation is approval. I think that was. I know. Last time I feel like I had a ton to say. So
I'm sorry. So the director and I'm looking at the preliminary subdivision plan. I mean, I don't know if you have these drawings, but on the preliminary subdivision plan, there's a thing called private mews. I don't know how to do this without an image.
Yeah, this is the.
There's some inconsistencies.
There's inconsistencies like between, and this is why I was confused because whatever this drawing is, the preliminary subdivision plan, that says private mews A. That says private alley A. This says, I don't know. I'm just trying to get like.
Let's see. Well, I have it. Let's see. So I have in my report the breakdown of the block structures. So we're looking at where the waiver applies should be block 5, private mews C. It's the waterfront block, for instance.
Yep.
And so you have mews C right of way, which is 22 feet in width, and there's the subgroups of the waterfront row. So as labeled in the plan, like lots 130 to 162, as the east-west interior lots with the houses. The south row is the shorter one, which has the HOA lot. And then you have the west column facing, and so all of the access is provided in the rears from private alleys B, C, and F.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, Austin,
did I-
it looks as though sheet 3 of 11 maybe has a typo on it, where it says private mews A,
Okay.
just below the KLOMAN Street identifier within parcel. I don't know which parcel that is.
This is parcel 1 at the top. Does that help you?
Yeah.
And then this is.
Yeah, it's near the top. And then if you look to the subdivision plan, or pardon me, the development plan on sheet 8 of 11, it says alley A there. So I'm thinking it might just be a typo.
Yeah, and this might be a good time to kind of bring up a side note. I was hoping we could kind of avoid it, but unfortunately, this project was delayed a little bit, and this was on staff side as a result of some issues getting the survey, comments back, and we're still working with the survey division, trying to make sure and ensure that all, either small inaccuracies or typos or things that the new chief of survey, who's only been on for about a month, is working with us. So we're hoping to allow this to kind of get through the design and the aspect of the waiver and those technical aspects, while the survey team will continue working with us in the background to ensure that the final plans to be platted are, don't have any typos or inconsistencies, whereas everything from the report does follow the plans that they submitted that we know are going to be approvable, and that perhaps these might, because we got a plan set that we just uploaded, in fact, last night. Okay. So there could be some slight inconsistencies, however, in terms of the actual lot arrangement, the letter of our regulations, and what we're looking at in terms of this waiver, staff is in agreement and asks for approval for the final plan.
Yep. I have one more question.
Sure.
The middle blocks, where there are larger blocks, lots 60, 71, 81, all these numbers probably intimately. They're larger because they're not individual parcels? Are they condominium buildings that are all, or they still would be separate? I'm just trying to understand what's going on in those middle blocks.
Yeah,
They're not divided up into
They're
little.
supposed to serve as more like transitional points in the block. And I believe, I'll let the applicant come, but I believe there were also separate sets of housing stock that they were planning to do along with a sort of clubhouse, but that might be a different unit number or lot number that you're referencing.
The plan shows them as one, says 1-car garage for 2/2s.
Yeah, yeah. So then that would be those.
All right, I can wait for the applicant then, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Are there other questions of staff?
Very clear.
I think he's still
I do
presenting.
have a question.
Sure.
The last time this project came up, we had a big discussion, thank you, about the right-of-way for the high-speed rail.
Correct.
And that project seems to have, it seems as though there was an agreement with the developer. I was just wondering if there's any residual right-of-way impacts on this side of the parcel.
There have not been any discussions between the project team and myself on that. So as far as I know, I'm unsure. However, I do know that it did play into some of the, design and reasoning for the Muse waiver on parcel B.
Right.
So I think it was just easier to, keep that.
So the applicant could answer.
Correct.
that,
And from our side, it just keeps the complementary site design.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been very helpful to see the last submission next to this submission, so we had a better context.
Yes.
For the plan, okay.
Other questions of staff? Is the applicant here? Yes. Can you?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Caroline Hecker, Rosenberg, Martin, Greenberg, on behalf of the applicant. I am joined by our summer associate, Julian Amaya, who's with me back there, Ryan Humphrey from Stonewall and his team, and Carla Ryan from Kimley Horn. So we have a full complement of people who hopefully can answer some of your questions. I do want to clarify something, though. We did submit a final development plan. This should be the final hearing on the subdivision. We've submitted the design of the townhouses, and that should all be in your files, and if it's not, I'm not really sure why.
There is one page of architectural elevation, sheet 11 of 11.
There should
But-
also be a final development plan though
There's-
in the packet.
It says preliminary development plan. Is that not helpful?
No, there was a final one as well.
I don't know what to say. I mean, I downloaded this just within the last.
Do you have it?
There's two staff reports.
Slides to walk them through?
Oops.
We can maybe, I don't know, get an electronic copy sent over.
So it's on the server right now.
It is, okay.
Well, the other, staff reports are.
Yeah, but not.
Duplicate.
See it.
I would not really view
Where's the?
sheet 11 out of 11 as a legitimate set of elevations for the project.
It must be because the staff report wasn't there, I had to add it, so. Okay, then something got lost. Okay. So that's why they're not there. Okay.
In my, go ahead, Eric.
Sorry, we're in the background trying to
No, I know,
figure out
I know.
why
Go ahead,
things are
please.
not there. So it looks like there were some updates that were supposed to be made on Wix that fell off or didn't take for whatever reason. So if you would like, we can try and take a recess, have him run back and re-upload them. You can refresh your browsers, and then you should be able to see them, and we can fix it that way.
The only question I mean, I'm fine to do that time-wise. My only question is, the agenda says major subdivision. It doesn't say final development plan. I just don't want to create a technical flaw here that's going to be a problem for anybody. So I guess I'd ask Ms. Hecker, ask the department. I'm just mentioning it. And that's frankly why I asked the question in part, because it's captioned that way. And of course, the plan didn't have that sheet, but it's captioned, and now I see on the Wix site, it now says major subdivision final development plan, which is not exactly what's on the agenda. So I don't mind at all trying to be flexible to take the time. I just don't want to create a problem for the applicant or for the department.
I don't think we have I'm looking at my client over there, I don't think we have a problem proceeding. I think we would rather proceed than have to postpone. I think there's some time sensitivity. I think it's, substantially compliant, the way that the matter has been advertised. We certainly have been in constant communication with the community associations. I mean, everyone knows what, we're here for today. I don't think that I don't anticipate that there is, any concern that we have, misrepresented what we're coming here
Okay,
for.
I mean, I'm just, like I said, I'm just trying to
it's a
protect
fair
the process. So why don't we do this? Can we pause on this, go to the last item on the agenda so that we're not waiting, that last item is waiting, then come back to this. It'll also give you some time without everybody simply waiting for you to come back, and then we
Well, I
can.
suggested recesses. Austin's got the last item.
He does.
Oh, yeah, if you can run and get somebody else to do it, then.
So what are you proposing?
He's gonna get somebody else to do the upload and come back and do the next item.
Okay, and because I do have a couple questions, which
You want me to answer them now while I'm here?
Sure. So on the middle big blocks, those are intended to be 2/2s, but they're functioning as one parcel, meaning are they rentals? Is that the intent, that they're not for sale? I don't know how we would sell them if.
I mean, they're condominium units, so they could be sold. But I
So
don't
they're
know-
proposing a condominium regime, and you're going to come lay on top of that a condo plat? Is that what the applicant is
that's the
proposing?
idea,
I see
yes.
the applicant nodding,
Yes.
so,
That is the idea.
okay. So there's no rental proposed? It's either fee townhomes?
Or 2/2
Or
condos.
2/2 condos?
Yeah.
Okay. There's 1,500 feet of retail in the top left corner. Is that supposed, is there an idea? Is that like?
It hasn't been leased yet.
Yeah.
Unless I see Ryan getting up, so maybe I'm.
Yeah, come on up. Yeah, come up and introduce yourself. That'd be great.
I always try and save you guys me speaking, and it never ends up working out well, so I apologize for that. Ryan Humphrey on behalf of the applicant. The retail in the southwest corner of the property was our attempt to address community concerns. Most of that conversation revolved not in the review of this particular set of plans, but in our review of the park itself. There was a lot of concern, especially amongst the existing Westport residents, that the park might be a little far away from the residences in case people needed bathrooms, food options, things like that. So this was our attempt to try and address some of those needs.
Where's that? That's the clubhouse at the, is that what you're talking about?
No,
Yeah, because the director is showing me a 2,500-foot clubhouse.
Oh, sorry, yeah, the top left is,
that's
top
closest.
left of the plan, which is
Right,
southwest.
that's what I
corner
was
for the-
asking about.
Yeah, so that is our proposed retail, right? Which is right next to the Black Sox Memorial Park.
Right.
So it seemed like a pretty logical spot for it. The clubhouse is actually in the bottom right corner.
In the L shape?
Yes, correct. And that is currently planned for a clubhouse and a pool.
HOA sort of.
Correct.
structure.
That will be the HOA and condominium association together will help manage that.
When this was here for the adjoining parcels to the left, there was a discussion about, the original plan being big mixed-use plan, and it couldn't be done, and this was feasible, and this is where the market is, and I think everybody sort of made their peace with that wherever they started in that conversation. But I remember there's more townhouses to the left. I think there's a Litech project at the top left on the plan if you kept going. Is the entire development plan for Westport townhomes, the Litech project, the various parks? Is there any commercial space planned for it at all? This, I just don't recall, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's a very timely question, actually, because we've not formally inked it, but we've entered into an understanding with the Westport CEDC. We've carved out an acre at the corner of Waterview and KLOMAN They actually just came out today with an RFP for design. They're using some funding that they received to do plans for a building on that corner. So they want to do it as a community space out at the corner of Waterview and KLOMAN. Next to that, on parcel A, will be a 4 and 9% twin tax credit deal. They've already been awarded the 9% credits. The 4% will go in August, I believe. The differentiation in product between the rest of the site, as we talked about last time, parcel B has different sized units as parcel C through F, and we get pretty much daily calls from the builder because they're very excited to move into these differentiated price points that we have on C through F. The 24-foot townhomes will go for more than the 20-foot townhomes that we have on B, and the stackables will provide a more affordable product than the 16s that we have on B.
A rough price range from low to high for the different types?
So on B right now, they're more or less, please don't quote me on this, but more or less between 400,000.
It's not like it's a public session or anything, so. No, I'm not trying to hold you to it. I'm really just trying to get some perspective.
Well, I just don't believe salesmen, and so I'm just going to tell you what they told me.
Yeah.
But 400,000 to around 750, I believe, is the range that we've had on B so far. And as I just mentioned, you'll have both higher-end units than B on this site, as well as more affordable units than that. So
So the 450 to 7, that number was the lesser or the higher units?
No, so
That's the whole range?
That's the entire range on B to date, and they've sold approximately 70 to date, which has been one of the most successful projects the builders had.
So the reason I started my question about commercial, and I defer to the staff and to, but it's how many townhomes altogether? How many?
But I was wondering,
So it's roughly 500, slightly larger.
Where are they gonna, what's the sort of assessment of amenities, local amenities in terms of, commercial? Because it's kind of landlocked there. We got the track and everything else.
it's a great
The original plan was very, as everybody knows, was very dense mixed use with all sorts of uses all stacked together, almost a self-contained kind of thing. And that, as we've talked about, that's now exited the scene in favor of this. But it's a lot of units without really any supporting amenities. And so please go ahead, yeah.
No, it's a great question, and it's something that we've been working with, especially the local CEDC for the last 4 years, to answer. One of the overarching themes that we got very early on is they wanted our help to try and revitalize Annapolis Road, which is a commercial corridor. It's walking distance from our site. And we've been trying to work with them on various solutions along with the city to try and not only work on the vacant residential units on the west side of the light rail tracks, but also to revitalize the Annapolis corridor retail. And we were, I guess, it wasn't our overriding impetus because we also were concerned about lack of density to support, say, a restaurant or some of the other things that people might want down in this development. But we also didn't want to choke out any opportunity for redevelopment of the already existing commercial stock.
What's the nearest full-service grocery store? I just can't think of what it would be.
It's a great question. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
Cherry Hill.
Cherry Hill?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the answer.
Okay. Well, I've run out of questions, so where are we? Do you want to?
Being uploaded.
So we should give you a minute and just continue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Caitlin's helping in the background.
I did have one more. There are a bunch of places where it talks about 20-foot, it's hard to read it in the scale, various public access easements. So those are, there's a lot of private roads here, which is fine, but there are access easements down, the idea is, of course, to get people across the property to the waterfront, et cetera. I assume staff has reviewed it, but generally speaking, you've got easements.
Correct.
On all that private, but not.
John, if you go to page 9, that'll give you a very clear illustration.
We've updated, so if you refresh, it'll have everything.
Refresh the Wix site?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a lot. Okay. So what would you like us to look at? The LA and CA plans, SPRC approval, architectural elevations, final development plan, final subdivision plan.
There should be, oh, it just opened for me. I clicked.
No, I got it.
Yeah, oh, okay.
But which of those do you want me to open? All of them?
Well, if you just click the subdivision plan, it should open up a, 11-page sheet that will have existing additions, subdivision. Let's see if it keeps scrolling.
When I click on final subdivision, I get 5 sheets.
Okay, then you'll have, then it is broken out. Oh,
If you click on the thing, the header.
Yeah, so landscape critical area. And then development plans, final dev plan.
And that one was correct, it looks like, with the alleys.
All right, so you're saying, Jane, if you just click on the subdivision plan header for that section, you get 11 pages. But I'm not sure if that's the correct.
But final dev plan, which is this penultimate sub bullet, will have the development plan.
Jane, I think that the first link to subdivision plan is the old link because it keeps coming, it comes up with the
We may be
preliminary
able to
plan.
help clarify.
Sorry, may I?
Yes.
Hi, thank you. Carla Ryan with Kimley Horn. I was in the background thinking I might be able to help clarify. The 11-sheet package that you might have in front of you is the preliminary submittal. So those plans were all lumped into one plan set. When we then updated our plans to final, they're broken out. So there's 5 sheets of a final subdivision plan, which was included in the presentation. There should be a final development plan, which is actually 3 sheets, and 2 or 3 landscape plan sheets, including the critical area plan, and I think 1 sheet of building elevations. So the 11-sheet plan set that you're talking about should be the preliminary plans that were submitted. Final plans, again, are broken down into different segments.
So, Ms. Ryan, we should essentially ignore the 11-page set that's been superseded by
I
the break?
believe if you look at the title block, it should say preliminary, and we've since submitted final plans.
Yeah, the data.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Good.
Thank you. Next time, we'll ask the first.
Yeah, there's the final.
That doesn't help. Because it's a subdivision plan.
And this has been through design review as part of the process for the final development plan?
Yes. Much a mirror of parcel B.
Say again?
It's pretty much a mirror of.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, very similar to
Yeah,
parcel B.
Like almost.
Is it one builder for the entire?
It's all under contract with the same builder as parcel B,
Ryan Ho.
NVR.
Okay.
Well, I'm looking and what are folks looking and you want a few minutes to page through these? I'm just trying to, no, okay. You've already done it.
It's pretty clear.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions of the applicant or the staff, having gotten the correct plans uploaded? Is there anybody else, watch this, is there anybody else here who wishes to testify on this item?
Better not be.
Okay. If there are there no other questions? Is there a motion to approve what is now a final subdivision and final development plan for this parcel, including the waiver request that is included in the staff report regarding the Muse on the east side, right?
Yes.
East side of the parcel. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
It's been moved by Commissioner Griffin. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by the councilman. Is there any further discussion on any aspect of this? Any aspect? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote, please. Mr. Tiso.
All right, I believe Commissioner Allen stepped out. John Bullock?
Approved.
Christine Griffin?
Approve.
Claudia Jolin?
Approve.
Doug McCoach?
Approve.
Jane Lewis? Eric Stevenson?
Approve.
John Laria?
I'm abstaining. Thank you. Okay, next item, please.
Item number 8, Major Subdivision 5601 South Bend Road in the 5th District. Austin Davis will present.
All right, promise this will be a little bit smoother. You know, second time's always easier when you get back-to-back major subdivisions with waivers. So this is 5601 South Bend Road. The greater project area here is outlined in red. The initial parcel that is being built off of is here outlined in blue, or teal, rather, from aerial. And then here is our final subdivision plan, where we can kind of begin to see some of the arrangements of the site, but I'll try to get into that in a little bit. We have the final landscape plan as well, which kind of shows a little bit of the both, agreements that have come to between both staff and the project team, and then the final development plan as well. Here's a couple renderings that were sent over to me. I believe the project team met with the community as recently as a week, if not 10 days ago or something in that time period. So these were pretty recently shared out, and wanted to show some of the potential renderings here. I believe these would be along South Bend Road. And now I'll get into some of the project and site history. So community outreach began in 2022, and it's been ongoing ever since. Presentations to the Mount Washington Improvement Association, neighbor meetings, et cetera. And a lot of this actually led to a unit count reduction from 11 to 8, and an expansion of the FCE from 1.8 to 2.5 acres. The initial pre-development took place in 2023, and with our pre-development meeting occurring in 25. The initial chat review came in August of last year. SPRC approval was granted February 4th. BMCA approval was granted for some variances along the same lots that we're going to be looking at for the waiver. And the CHAP final review is actually scheduled for next week, so that's the only final thing, but I believe that'll be more materials and whatnot, no more siting and things of that nature. So here's just some more general area and site characteristics. We're looking at the east side of South Bend Road, north side of Carterdale, kind of where they meet here. It is quite a large site, 240,000 square feet. And there's one existing single-family dwelling on the site. It's heavily forested, around 45% of the total site area. There's an unnamed tributary to the Jones Falls that runs plan west to east, and the wetland areas along the storm banks and steep slopes kind of provide a little bit of unique, difficult conditions for development. Hence, some of the design changes that I'll go over. This is zoned R1D, so low density residential detached. Our final site design is 8 total lots with 1 existing, 7 new, 8 dwelling units, single family detached. 16 is the permitted density by right. So once again, it's a 50% reduction in what could be. And there's 2.5 acres of forest conservation easement on a single lot. So lot 8, like I said, the existing house has this 148,817 square feet of the existing dwelling and all of the forest conservation easements. Lots 14, 15A, and 7E are the South Bend Road parts, and they're completely code compliant, no variances. And then lots 7A through D, which is the Carterdale section along Plan South, are between 91, 98, and 1,200, 882 square feet, which required BMZA variance relief and are also pursuant for their waiver from Section 310 of our regs. There's 1 garage space per lot, and 24.7 feet of paved private road with curb and some sidewalk being added to this full site as well. In terms of the forest conservation easement, the consolidation, as I've been mentioning, is all in this one lot that's kind of encompassing both the stream banks and the forested areas to the rears. And why does this consolidation matter? Well, it avoids fragmenting the easement across 5 separate property owners. The 8-lot development is too small to sustain, maybe a more traditional HOA structure, and this is kind of a nice, unified, durable protection of the stream corridor and the, mature trees on site. In terms of the specimen tree mitigation, and if you'd like, I went into it in a little bit more detail in the report, but happy to go into it if needed. But we're looking at 634.5 caliber trees or caliber inches removed, 213.6 caliber inches mitigated is required, and they're bringing in 213.8, so 50 shade trees and 51 understory evergreen. So, these updated FCEs impact a lot, or this forest conservation easement rather, impacts far fewer specimen trees than the original concept plan. So this is something that staff like to see along this process. And now transition to the BMZA waiver relief and the subdivision waiver, because this is kind of the major portion of this project here. And as mentioned, BMZA Appeal 26-0047 was a 4.0 findings just last month in April. And like I mentioned, so the lot areas required, variance. I'm not going to read the chart verbatim here, but between 11 and 37%. And the practical difficulties that arose from that were the stream bisecting the site, the existing utility easements, the significant sloping, as I mentioned, from Carderdale Road, and the around 45% forest cover. In terms of the minimum front yard, and this is what we're looking at in terms of the waiver, the front yard reductions are essentially done to help keep everything at grade and keep the right-of-way clear of the stream and woodland buffer. So when looking at all of this, through a concerted multi-year outreach, the applicant really fundamentally reshaped the project in response to staff and community input, down from 11 dwelling units, increased to 2.5 acres. And I know there was a lot of discussion around the front, side loading garages and ensuring that we had, a reduction of impervious surfaces by, changing and working with the garage orientations. Now, in terms of the waiver, I already went over in the previous item around how waivers work, but in this case, the applicant is looking for a waiver on the front lot frontage requirements. So from our code right here, each lot must provide frontage along the right-of-way, and frontage can't be on an alley, lane, or unimproved streets. And then the width of the frontage along the right-of-way for residential must be greater than 16 feet, or the sum of the applicable side yard setbacks. And so in this case, for these lots, they're going to need around 30 feet of minimum frontage, and the corner is 35. And in the plan, there is a varying width of how many. I think I have it written down somewhere in here, but they're pretty close. But they all need this waiver. It's a minor percentage. And did I skip? Oh, here we go. And in short, a lot of it's from the road curvature, from the steep slopes, and from the consolidation of the site. And, as these are the same lots that receive the BMZ variance relief, excuse me, pollen's getting me. These are the same lots that got the BMZ variance relief that we also see the same practical difficulties arise, and agree with the applicant that, this waiver from our regs is approvable. Thus, staff's recommendation is to approve. Thank you. Go back to the development plan here.
With some trepidation, I will ask you whether this is a final subdivision plan or a final development plan.
Final development subdivision with waiver requested.
Okay, it's not captioned that way. It's captioned major subdivision preliminary plans.
Should be.
On the staff report and on the website, on the WIC site.
Oh, major subdivision preliminary plans, I'm assuming because they still have to get chap final. But these are the.
Well, that is one possible interpretation, yes. So you're telling us that we are being asked today to approve both major subdivision and a final development plan?
Yes.
Okay. All right, are there questions for Mr. Davis? Please.
The open space, who will be responsible for the ownership and maintenance of the open space?
I believe it'd be under this lot that's encompassing it, but I'll let the applicants confirm that.
Other questions for staff? Okay, are there folks here wish to be heard on either in support or opposed? Okay, anybody else? Anybody, so Ms. Hecker, are you here for this item? Yes. And is there anybody else in my physical presence who wishes to be heard on this item? Okay, and who is online, please?
It was somebody who had to leave, so I have something to read to you.
Would you read that for us first so we can get in the record, and then we'll have Ms. Hecker come up?
Sure. Actually, looks like there are two. One popped up in the meantime.
Okay.
The first is from Melanie Richardson, who had to leave for this item. Two lots appear too close to Carderdale Road. These lots have no lawn frontage facing the road, perhaps 3 feet between the proposed house and Carderdale Road. This will make for short driveways, making maneuvering cars and driveways and traffic problematic, if not impossible. Can the developer please not include the two lots closest to the road? From Melanie Richardson. She leaves her email address, and she says, I would appreciate a follow-up response. I live about 2 blocks away from this property, by the way, and I'm concerned about the crowded development. I also will hate to see these woods disappear. Thank you. The next comment is from Brandy McCoy. I wish to submit the following concerns regarding the proposed development. Tree removal and stormwater management. The proposed removal of existing tree canopy and ground cover raises concerns about habitat loss and reduced stormwater absorption. Given increasingly intense rainfall events, how does the applicant address how runoff will be managed to protect downslope properties and the Jones Falls walking trail? With regard to traffic and access at Rogers and Carterdale Roads, this intersection is already difficult to navigate under normal conditions. What are the implications of adding driveway access points for the two adjacent proposed lots? And clarification on whether on-street parking will be permitted. I respectfully ask that these concerns be addressed prior to any approval. And that was again from Brandy McCoy, and she leaves her email address.
Mr. Davis, I don't know if you've heard those previously or took notes because it was quite a long list there, but I think, can you reply to the concerns that were expressed? Obviously, there's been,
If you want to look
read the
through
staff
that, you can do it
report,
here.
tremendous amount of work, tremendous amount of back and forth. I commend you for, trying to work through this. And I understand that significant changes have been made and that probably affected your willingness to recommend approval. But I also don't know how to, can you comment on those various community questions?
So there was a bit of discussion, especially with regards to the South Bend Road and Carterdale kind of intersecting parcel. I believe that'd be parcel was at 7E. Can't see from here, but I remember during both SPRC and with discussions with Department of Transportation and planning staff, we did work with the applicant on some of the adjustments of the placement of, for instance, the driveway to that house to try to make it as safe as possible. Obviously recognizing the both bend in the road and where it lies. As far as the short driveways, this is, like I mentioned before, this is something that the applicant took from our, especially from CHAP, saying where and how the siding of the houses could be, and as an effort to reduce impervious surfaces. So this will lead to shorter driveways with them trying to make it as short and as easy as possible for the cars to get off the street. In terms of, let's see, is there anything else concerned about? And then in terms of the woods, as mentioned, the updated plans do conserve a considerable amount more of the existing wooded and forested area.
Are there other questions that folks want Mr. Davis to address based upon what you heard from the online comments, from the commissioners' questions? Okay. Ms. Hecker, did you want to come up and be heard?
Just very briefly. Good afternoon. Caroline Hecker, Rosenberg Martin again. I'm joined by Scooter Monroe from the development team and Elisa Hertzmark from Bowler Engineering. I just want to clarify about the waiver. You can see us sort of shuffling papers over there. The waiver request is for the lot area requirement, not the lot width requirement. So I just want to clarify and that's the analysis that's in the staff report, goes to lot area, not to lot width, but it's titled lot width.
Can you be a little more specific? So the waiver starts at the beginning of, bottom of page 4.
Yes.
It says waiver minimum lot width. You're saying the text below it is correct? It's just that the caption is?
Yeah, I captured it wrong.
Yeah, the discussion about the reasons, the justification for the variance, all relate to the area of the lots. And it's those 4 lots on Carterdale that are smaller than what would be required. And that was the same thing that the zoning board approved the variance for. We could make them larger by including that forest conservation area as part of those individual lots, but it becomes unwieldy when you have 5 owners owning pieces of the forest conservation easement. So the owner of that one main house, the existing house, will own the larger parcel that'll include the forest conservation easement, which will make it more manageable from an administrative perspective to have one owner controlling that whole area and maintaining that whole area, rather than having the individual lot owners each having a piece of it.
But I'm only confused because when I read this previously in detail, but I'm just looking at it again, and don't the paragraphs that follow the caption talk about lot width? Are you saying it's, like, for example, page 5, first full paragraph, while lot widths could be increased, doing so would fragment forest and stream bank protection, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not talking about lot widths? It's all about lot widths.
The lot widths do comply, and I'll turn to Eliza, who's our engineer, to come up and talk about this. Our lot widths are compliant with the requirements, but here, Eliza.
Yeah, hi, Eliza Hertzmark with Bowler Engineering. So you're correct, there is some discussion in here about the lot width analysis. I think what Caroline was referring to, if you go to the last two paragraphs in the waiver analysis, which talks about the broader development, the forest conservation area, that justification applies to the lot area waiver request, which is what Caroline was saying about the easement. For lot area, if you're getting the MZA variance, you also need the subdivision waiver. So it's kind of the same approval from both agencies. So the discussion about lot width is, from everything I can tell, not actually applicable to what we are asking for. But the justification at the end applies to the broader development and supports the lot area waiver.
It's just what you're saying, the last two paragraphs, the one that begins the proposal before the commission? Is that the one you're talking?
Yes, yes.
The last sentence of that says the lot widths proposed are a direct consequence of a design that prioritizes. So it's back to widths again.
So I would take that word widths and replace with area, and the justification of that entire paragraph applies to the lot area discussion.
And there's a chart.
Are there any
on-
other substitutions, changes, edits, or interpretations that we want to make about the staff report, which was presented to us in writing prior to the hearing?
I just want to clarify that there is, on the, it's sheet C303 of the plans that were submitted, there's a chart that goes through the minimum lot widths and shows what they are for each of the lots and that they are compliant. So I just want to clarify that isn't necessary, the waiver isn't necessary for that.
We don't have a separate memo from you on the waiver, is that, or do we?
You
Is
do.
this the one
So-
from which we have, I'm sorry.
It's from Bowler.
Our
From Bowler,
waiver
yeah,
would have
yeah,
been
Bowler.
submitted to
No,
the
I think
planning
I saw it.
department. Is
Just a
that in
moment,
the?
please. Just a moment. Thought I had it. Excuse me. No, that's,
Do they have
no,
this?
no.
Or did this just go?
Is
to
there a separate-
planning? If like, does it, I guess, Austin, does it just go to you or does it get put into their?
Maybe I missed it. I see staff report, subdivision plans, and a posting.
Oh, no, Wix did mess up.
So that's probably.
Yeah,
Nelson was
yeah.
updating the
Okay.
thing at the same time in background.
Okay, yeah, so every update I need to Wix.
So what I would like you to do concisely.
No, we can't have two people in at the same time, and so sometimes when there are two people editing, it collides and kicks one out.
I would like you concisely, and it can be a tag team effort or a solo effort by either the engineer or our staff, to give us for the record the justification for the actual waiver that you're asking for, regardless of what the staff report says. So whoever is nominated to do that, please do.
I'm happy to do that.
Pardon?
For the lot area. Yes.
For lot area, yeah, please.
So we are requesting a waiver from section 1.4 of the rules and regulations for land subdivision for minimum lot area for the 4 lots that front on Carterdale Road. These are the same lots for which the BMZA variance was approved for minimum lot area, as well as minimum front yards. The justification for this, concisely, is that the property has significant forestation across approximately 45% of the total property land area. The forest conservation easement will be established on the lot that has the existing house. In order to best protect those natural resources, the forest and conservation easement is going to include both stream banks up the hill from both sides of the lowest point of the stream, and put that fully on a single lot, fully under single ownership, rather than spread it out amongst 5 different lots. When doing that, because of the topography of the site, it cuts out the additional area that otherwise could have been given to those 4 lots that would have put them in compliance with the minimum lot area. So specifically for the reason of protecting the natural resources, we've taken away area that otherwise could have been provided to those 4 lots, provided it to the main lot with the forest conservation easement, and therefore we're requesting a subdivision waiver for minimum lot area for those 4 lots.
Okay.
Using lot 7D for an example.
That's the leftmost one for those who are watching, the one with the jaggedy edge on the left side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where would you take the additional lot area from?
Can I go up to the screen? Would it be helpful if I
Take the
point and
microphone with
describe?
you.
Well,
and
I
please-
guess,
I mean,
what I'm
Or is this a-
implying here is it looks like that one, for example, in addition to the forest conservation, because of its proximity to the stream setback, you're also confined.
I think, well, you're the engineer, go ahead.
Well, and so, sorry, to just make sure I understand the question, is the question, how could I otherwise have drawn that lot to not require the waiver? Sure. So for that lot specifically, for 7D, I would incorporate the stream all the way until it hits the lot line for 7E/13. And I would incorporate that portion of the stream into lot 7D to get the rest of the area, right? To, on paper, make it a fully compliant lot. And we could have done that. There was an iteration where we did do that with all of those lots on Carterdale when we were.
They didn't like it.
Yeah, we didn't, right. When we were trying to, reduce the, what we were asking for variances on, but we reviewed it with the planning department and they were not in favor.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Okay. Is there a motion? Oh, I thought I asked, I'm sorry, you didn't raise your hand earlier, but you're welcome to.
He did.
Oh, you did, I'm sorry. I thought, please come up.
Say something?
Of course you may, I'm sorry, my apologies.
My name's Charles Maloney. I'm a resident of the area. I just don't understand, we have a zoning law. We have figured that lots are supposed to be in a certain size, right? Why are we getting variances? What is the importance to make these things smaller? What's the rationale behind making all these things smaller so that you can build these homes here? That's basically what my big objection, right? Secondly, that picture, and bring that picture up, will you please? Yeah, it looks like those houses are nice and high. If you've been out in that area, right, that road, right, this Carterdale going up this way, the road slopes way down. Are they gonna have to fill that area up there? There's a stream down the bottom of it. It doesn't show there, but that's the way those houses look like. They're in the back, the rear of those houses are gonna be practically almost over the stream bed, right? And it's gonna be very low, right? So it's gonna change dramatically the area, right? Gonna get away a lot of green, a lot of space, a lot of trees. And I just don't understand why you are making these changes, right? Just to cram a bunch of houses together, when there are so many more places in the city that you've been talking about that you could develop, right, easily. How's that for? And my wife would also like to speak.
Of course, please, ma'am.
She's got some. She's much more articulate than I am.
No, I have only one question. I guess the only question I have is why would you find in favor of waivers when we have a community that has come up with recommendations and laws and rules to protect the quality of the neighborhood? And this utterly changes a section of Mount Washington. And in favor of what? Who benefits from that? Not the neighbors who live there, who have invested their lives there. Who benefits from this?
May we have your name, please?
Who does?
May we have your name for the record? I was just asking for your name.
Oh, my name is Barbara Melanie. It seems to me the rules were for good purpose.
Thank you,
I
ma'am.
don't understand for whose benefit we would offer the waiver. Who wants it?
Yeah, well, thank you for your testimony, and well, I'm sure the commission will take that into consideration as we debate and discuss.
All right,
Yes.
I'll sit down.
Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard? Okay. So I'm gonna, Ms. Hertzmark,
Well, I
you're raising your hand. You can't speak from back there, though. Is this something you need to come up?
Well, it's really just a question for the commission, so. I did just want to offer for the commission, if there are questions about the grading of the houses and their proximity to the stream, I am available to answer if there are specific questions.
Okay.
It's very steep. Is it going to require retaining walls, or is that just slope?
So we have nothing steeper than a 3-to-1 slope coming up from the wetland buffers, which we are not disturbing at all. We're not touching the wetland buffers. We're actually still working with the developer on retaining walls, grading options, and kind of finalizing all the different pieces there, going through several pricing exercises, so I can't definitively say. We are looking at some retaining walls. We are looking at grading, and the plans that you have also have exposed foundations, right? So in the back, those are effectively retaining walls, but they're part of the houses.
Are there other questions? Okay, so we can, rather than a motion, let's start with discussion. Can I start, Commissioner Jolin, with you?
Sure. I just would love a little help on simplification of this issue. In my mind, what I'm thinking is, the request is, can we have a waiver? We have a lot of trees, so we're trying to fix the lot size so we can keep our trees under one ownership. That is what I heard. Is that correct? So by right, the property owners and developers could not do this, have different ownership under trees, and still be able to do what they're asking for today. They're just simplifying it to us. Is that correct?
Mr. Davis, you want to come up there and answer the commissioner's question, please?
Yeah, so this should help kind of outline the possibilities. So, no, maybe I have it in the report instead. But in short, if they were to do by right and break up the trees and whatnot, and not do an HOA for the forest conservation easement, but leave it to every property owner, it's our understanding and from discussions with the applicant that would be both more difficult, have fewer specimen trees remain on the site, and probably not be as conformed a design as what we're looking at. And this is what led to that. And, I believe that's the same with the applicant's point of view as well. So this, albeit not technically by right because of the minor waivers and variances required, the by right alternative would be more than likely worse.
That's what I was trying to get to. Thank you, Austin.
But all that's clearly true. But it sort of presumes that option A and option B are the only possibilities in the universe for this site.
Correct.
Can I ask you a trick question?
Sure.
Why don't we build multifamily here?
R1D detached, single family, they'd have to get a zoning change.
Right. Zoning doesn't allow it.
True, but
The zoning doesn't strictly allow this either. So to the point of the lady and gentleman who spoke, if we're going to make compromises, shouldn't they be for the greatest good?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that both me personally and staff kind of approaches these things is that we have the zoning code as obviously a rigid set of rules and regulations to follow, and then the ways and means that we have as both the public and the city to work around that are through our BMZA, are through our planning commission, and there's multiple levers that you can pull to try to enact some sort of change to the area. Changing the zoning, especially for a spot, is a potential lever, but it is a far more arduous and difficult process to do, and potentially has longer lasting implications for a site or a given project, whereas a minor variance, especially one of this nature, is more along the intent of what is being done. I believe the amounts of the variances are pretty small. 37% is the largest one, and 11% being the smallest under the minimum lot area, which is the top box. So these minor variances within the intent of R1D, staff felt was still within the intent of the zoning code, although not within the expressed technicalities of it.
Okay, Deputy Mayor, questions or comments from you?
Well, obviously, I missed a chunk of the presentation, but I think I've gotten up to speed pretty quickly. It may be helpful if y'all would bear with me for like 30 seconds of making sure I understand clearly.
Sure.
There are residences that are going to be built on this property that currently is one lot, and is a single detached. The property's in Mount Washington off of Rogers Avenue. And we have to approve for the splitting of the lot.
We have to approve, I don't want to, I think Austin should answer your question, but the Deputy Mayor is just confirming what the actual reason is for the action. Would you just repeat, please, what the reason is for the, we have to approve, obviously, a subdivision, because we have to approve subdivision.
Right.
The variance question.
Yes, so the variance is for, and ignore the bottom chart, top chart, lot area. As a result of BMC 260047 with the 4-0 decision, there is a practical difficulty proven for the lot 7D, C, B, and A, with variances between 11 and 32% for total lot area as a result of the stream bisecting the site, the grade, the amounts of trees, the slopes of Carterdale Road, and the existing utilities easement. Something that also bears in mind is that should this have been, or if this had been just flat land, I think Commissioner, Vice Chair, to your point, it would be a lot harder to say, oh, well, maybe, but in the given context of the topography and the natural elements and, our agency's wish to try to preserve trees and especially specimen trees, then these combinations of things lead to a more, appropriate site.
Could somebody give me just a quick 20 seconds on what the issue was from the residents that came?
Well,
I'm just trying to, because I just want to understand, like, from a community perspective.
To
what the concern
paraphrase,
is.
we heard a couple concerns online related to mostly traffic. But the residents here asked why, through the variance, we were decreasing the lot size, and if that standard was set for a reason. Now, that's not necessarily my concern. To your point, while the slope may have created the difficulty that we're addressing with the variance, it's also the slope that makes it a more sensitive site. So I'd probably care less if it was flat ground.
Okay, those are my questions.
Were you responding?
I was responding to the Deputy Mayor.
Do you want to offer independently your comments and questions?
I don't have anything further.
Well, I think to finish my thought, if you don't mind, sir.
Yeah, of course, sorry.
No, I think now that I have a full understanding, my general posture is going to be that this is a city that continues to need density, so this seems like a generally acceptable use of the land. I just, my suggestion to the developer is to make sure that you're having communications with the community a little bit more, but also to the community that we live in a city, so we got to be okay with the fact that there's going to be development.
Have you concluded your comments, Mr. Vice Chair?
I guess the only thing, because my feelings are very much in line with yours in terms of adding density. But we very recently had deliberation about adding density to single-family neighborhoods in other ways And, you know, there was a lot of resistance to that. So who says that this is the right amount of density? I mean, I was being a little bit tongue-in-cheek before, but my comment was, like, if we're gonna add units, let's add units, but let's not use density as an argument to cram 7 houses where they don't really fit.
Could have crammed 16, I saw, by right.
We gotta work on those rights.
Commissioner Griffin,
I don't have anything right now, thank you.
Commissioner McCoach.
I think that it would have been very easy for the developer to come in and basically draw sites which kind of run roughshod, thank you again, a roughshod over the environmental aspects of the stream and the stream valley and the existing conservation area. So I think it's a trade, and in this regard, I think the winner would be one that reduced the lot area in favor of a consolidated conservation zone. And especially given that, yeah, the zoning would originally have allowed much greater density, I feel as though meeting the community's interests, 7+1 houses, represents a trade-off that the developer's already made. So I would really hate to see those backyards stretch over the stream, which would have been a very easy thing for them to do. And then you really would have 7 or 8 owners of 12-foot of stream. And how do you manage that?
Well, easy could be, I understand the point here, by right. I mean, the idea, I will leave it, but easy, we're dealing with a, 14-foot grade change. So the idea that you could.
You would never build in there because you have steep slopes in a stream. But the BS way to do this, just draw lines on paper and kind of fake it with large lots that meet a zoning requirement.
I digress.
Councilman.
So first, I'll say I appreciate the neighbors who came out and had their voice, putting together all the comments that were made, thinking about density and thinking about the neighborhood as well. This seems to be a compromise in many ways. I get the point in terms of by right, you could go all the way in one direction. And I think also sometimes there's a hesitance to have increased density, but I think this does it in a way that still fits within the character of the community, but doesn't overburden it.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, what, we don't have anything in the record from any community association. And I know you've documented, I know there's been endless discussion, but do you know at this point, have you heard from the association on the subject at all?
From the association, no. And at the time of the staff report's writing, I personally had not received anything. However, I do believe that since it was signed, there were 2 letters that came in. And I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but the community planner is in the room as well.
Where are the letters?
There should be, everything that I put on Wix was overwritten, so.
Okay, well, I think the commission would like the benefit of the letters if they were sent to us in advance of.
I can go print copies.
Well, yeah, whatever we need to do, that would be great.
I'll just add that we've said in here a number of times, increased density, and I understand what we mean by that. We're literally adding 7 households. So I guess, but I wouldn't frame that as increasing density. It's a single-family neighborhood. We're keeping it a single-family neighborhood. So I think to call that an increase in density, while maybe technically to the 100% is true, but I think it's a disservice to the conversation that we're having about truly increasing density and what that looks like.
Is that in response to what I said?
No, that's just
only
comment in
because
general.
if so,
No,
I'd
I
be
think
happy to.
we've talked about it. I think Councilman said it most recently. We've talked about it that way a number of times.
Yeah, let me take a stab at it, because I think I kind of see what's going on as well. there's been a lot of, and this isn't even about this project, it's about something larger as well, right? So there have been a lot of neighborhoods that have had, a significant pushback around the issue of density, those neighborhoods versus these neighborhoods, what types of neighborhoods this should belong in. I think at the end of the day, though, even given the concerns that have been briefly mentioned here, if it were to be even, more dense, I think that's where we get even more pushback and misunderstanding around it. But I think your point is a good one of how we talk about this concept writ large.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I agree with your point generally. I think if we were building, large multifamilies, this would be something we would have tension with, right? It's not. It seems to fit the feel of from what I see, Mount Washington is. I like the idea of continuing to have opportunities for people to buy in a neighborhood like Mount Washington. For example, me and my wife are right now looking at properties. And based on her criteria, there are only certain neighborhoods that we can go to fit which, because you got to keep your wife happy, what she wants, right? And what we found, though, is that when you're looking for a certain type of single detached home in this city, there's just not a lot of good housing stock that's not very old or that hasn't, the rehabs are still sort of being done. So I'm keenly aware of the fact that if you want this type of suburban feel in Baltimore, there's only certain places you can go. And the reality is we want all new residents and all types of who want all types of housing. We also want people who want this type of housing to be able to find homes in Baltimore, right? And Mount Washington is just one of our best marketable neighborhoods. So if we're able to figure this out and the developers figured out how to do it in a way that is environmentally friendly or beneficial, conservative is the right word, then that is what is appealing to me, I do also, to your point, Councilman, you commented on the residents that came, right? Like this is a great example of, and I appreciate you guys coming, you guys have created a neighborhood that is so desirable, right? That people want to build there, and people want to move there. And it's something that we all celebrate, so thank you.
Why would you undo that?
Thank you. Commissioners, I'm just going to give everybody a couple of minutes to read these letters till you're satisfied that you've read them so we can consider them. Did you say there was more than one or only one?
There's two. I'm just passing out the first one, but one and then two.
Okay, thank you. I understand. Okay, has everybody had a chance to read the letters? For the record, this is an email from Dominique Hall Mount Washington Court. And then there's another one, which is an series of emails from Sean Zhang, Z-H-A-N-G. I just want to acknowledge that those have been submitted. So my comments are, I think it is a compromise. I just want to remind my fellow commissioners what the waiver standard is. In the subdivision regulations, it says, unless expressly stated otherwise, the Planning Commission may grant waivers of the requirements of these subdivision regulations in cases where it finds that undue hardships or practical difficulties may result from strict compliance, which is probably familiar to all, or in cases in which it is determined that the purposes of these subdivision regulations may be better served by an alternate design that demonstrates creativity and is compatible with its surroundings and the general purpose of these regulations. So my conclusion, having read all that and listened to all this, is that the latter part of that applies as far as I'm concerned, because it is sort of a trade-off, if you will, but it's a trade-off that's been sort of been hard fought and discussed, and I'm satisfied that there's that the standard can be met, and I'm satisfied that enough sufficient effort has been done to meet it. So I'll plan to support this when a motion is made. I realize that this may not be to everybody's liking. I also am a little bit puzzled by what seems like a very slight set of objections, considering I understand there was quite a lot of objection at the zoning board, and perhaps people just decided that this was okay. I don't know, but so I'm surprised. I respect, of course, that you're here and the two letters that we got, but I'm not seeing from a community that has never been, in my experience, afraid to be vocal, any sort of unified concern or opposition. And perhaps that's because it's been sort of a long negotiation. I don't really know, but that's just an observation. So with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the staff's recommendation, including the waiver, and then also, of course, it remains subject to full CHAP approval, which I assume is of the actual structures, the normal CHAP authority regarding the architectural design.
Yeah, speaking with CHAP earlier this week, their hearing next week will be the final one. Their concept approval came in August, and like I mentioned, this is more on like the materials and
Okay, all right. So is there a motion to the effect of what I just stated?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Jolan. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Coach, is there any further discussion on the motion now that we've got a motion on the table? Okay, hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote, please. Mr. Chiso?
Robin Allen stepped out. John Bullock. Approve. Christine Griffin.
Approve.
Claudia Jolin.
Approve.
Doug McCoach.
Approve.
Calvin Young.
Approve.
Eric Stevenson.
Opposed.
And John Laria.
Approve. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you very much. That's the last item on the agenda. Is there anything else anybody has for the commission today? If not, take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you very much.